a show. Well, I think maybe we will. We'll see. All right, let's keep going. Let me read through some of these. Welcome, Ryan Dawson. You were here for a lot of the. I don't know about a lot, but I remember you called in at least once during the riot coverage. I think that was one of our seminal moments during this year.
One of the
Was the
times I
riot
called
coverage?
in when
Yeah.
Andy Warski was on, and there was like someone set fire to the building next to us,
Right.
and I had to go.
Oh yeah, that's right. I think that wasn't that during the riots too. I believe that was during the riots, and you called on.
Well,
You
someone
called
didn't
in.
set our restaurant got a fire, had a
Right.
fire, like a normal fire, but
We didn't
yeah,
hear from you for a while too. We were actually kind of worried about you. I mean, it's funny now, but I mean, it was
yeah, it
kind of
was. I
funny
had to
then even.
go. I was like, oh man, I got to do that, and then I had to go pick up my kid from preschool, and so I was like, oh man, I better like chime in and say, yeah, we're fine or something, but
Yeah, we
whatever.
finally did hear back from you, but it was, I mean, we were kind of worried there for a minute. All right, let me read these. We'll get going. Two guesses as to what tonight's show is going to be about. Actually, just one guess. Well, we have a few
Yeah.
other topics too, but the main meat of the program here, wait, I never say his name right. Geese He's Tail just subscribed for a month. Thank you very kindly for that subscription. There will be another bonus episode posted this weekend, maybe even two. This morning I was on InfoWars with Harrison Smith, and I had a blast. Harrison Smith is really skilled at hosting, and they have a hard clock too when you're on InfoWars. So I had to call in through Skype, and then they have a countdown clock on the segment for the guest. So the first segment, you'll notice I get cut off abruptly because I wasn't paying attention to the fucking clock, and he kind of like pushed me out of the segment, which is what he's supposed to do. That's why they pay him. And then the next segment, I was like, okay, I see what happened here, and so I was much more on it for the rest of the interview. But I had a lot of fun on InfoWars today. I heard it got pretty good reviews around the office there too. I won't go too deep into that, but
They ask you about September 11th.
they actually did.
Yeah.
He did ask me about something. It was a joke. He didn't make me answer, but he asked me who was responsible for September 11th. So I'll ask you, Mr. Dawson, who was
I'm glad they're
responsible?
calling you and not me on Infowars to ask about September 11th.
Well, I mean, they asked me who was responsible for it. I believe that was the question Harrison asked me. I'd have to find the direct transcript, but I think that's basically what he said. What would you say if I asked you that, which is what I'm doing right now?
Well, I wonder how you answered that.
I didn't answer that.
Oh, okay.
I said, I laughed and chuckled, and then he said, oh, just kidding, which I was happy, very happy to
You
hear
should
him
have
say.
said, obviously, it was COVID-19.
But in all seriousness, so I'm not as deep into and we've had you on the show, and we've talked about September 11th before, but this is going to be this is the episode that I'm going to cite. Basically,
All
Ryan
right, we'll
Dawson,
go to
September
some
11th.
serious then.
This is it right here. As far as the Killstream and September 11th and Ryan Dawson, this is it. We've talked about it a little bit before. I'll fully admit I'm not like as up on the I guess alternative theories as far as differing theories from the mainstream as
Mhm.
other people, and so
Most of them are silly.
right, and I don't want to front like I have as much knowledge as you or others, because that's absolutely not the case. So please talk to me like I'm a normie if you go into some of the technical
All
aspects.
right.
And
Well,
I want to do that also so the audience, we have normie listeners of the audience too, so they can
I got to
follow.
pretend you're a normie instead of a famous porn star.
Right, exactly. Yes.
I just can't let that go.
It's
All
all
right.
good. It's all good.
So, Al Qaeda did 9/11. The thing is, not by themselves. And what I guess normies would have to understand is that Al Qaeda was not then and is not now and was never a wholly independent organization from intelligence agencies. That our own CIA helped create Al Qaeda in Afghanistan to fight the Soviets at the time. And the relationships between intelligence agencies and terrorists never stopped. And it's always been that way, whether it's terrorists or warlords or drug cartels. There's a hand in glove relationship between those bringing cocaine in and the CIA. There's a hand in glove with narcotics, with human trafficking, and with terrorism. The thing is, Congress cannot openly go ask for money and say, can we have $1 billion to sponsor terrorists to blow up this and that? They get rejected. So they have to find ways to do it kind of off the books in their own independent budget. And the way they finance a lot of terrorism and paramilitaries, etc., is mostly through narcotics, through illegal narcotic sales. And so that's a global operation, and it's been like that since at least World War One. And that's exactly what happened in Afghanistan. The opium trade facilitates an enormous black budget for illegal activities where quasi independent terrorist groups are guided by either the Mossad or CIA or a state intelligence agency. Gotta turn my phone off.
It's happened to the best of us, sir. By the way, I'm throwing out
Yep.
the call-in link. We will
I
take
thought it
callers.
was off.
We will take callers. By the way, how long do you have tonight? Because I didn't ask you that off air, as a professional would do.
It's morning here, and I just did the other two shows I had scheduled, so
yeah.
I think we're good for time. And
Okay, so you're good.
I'm not gonna stay forever, but yeah.
Well, right. I mean, a couple hours, I guess. If we go a little long,
a couple hours is fine.
Okay, all right,
cool.
A
little over.
Okay,
you're not gonna push me off like this.
No. You're welcome to stay. Like we're gonna go until about 12:30. I figured we'd get you out of here around 12 or something like that. A couple hours.
So the first thing I think people have to understand is that the CIA, and we're not alone. Like a lot of any government does the same thing. They always covertly are involved in illegal activities, whether it's the facilitation of narcotics traffic or acts of terrorism. They do things that the state cannot openly do. And this kind of grew, I call them modern privateers, because the British really mastered this system with pirates. If they wanted to attack the Spanish, they couldn't do it openly, because when Spain used to be more powerful than Britain, the Spain would declare war on them. But if you have a pirate attack a Spanish ship, all they can do is capture that pirate and hang him. And so if the state is covertly helping the pirates, giving them the guns, the maps, the gold, etc., and they're a privateer. It's a pirate with secret state sponsorship. And a lot of terrorist groups are just that. They're privateers. They're not really just some independent gang of Islamists or whatever, of communists, of fill in the blank. They are actually working for governments.
In Pakistan, this is a very big thing too. Please look into the Benazir Bhutto case and stuff like that. Actually, the BBC did a great podcast on this. I think it was last year. I forget. I think it was the assassination, I believe is the name of it. But a lot of people don't realize, like you said, they're actually kind of sponsored by state groups and pushed in certain directions. Or not state groups, but state intelligence agencies and stuff like that. Anyway, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And the whole world learned a new term for some of them in the 80s. And this is a good one to talk to boomers about because they lived through Iran-Contra. Iran-Contra was like the O.J. Simpson trial in the 90s. It was on all the time, right? Everything was covering it. And Iran-Contra was a case where American intelligence agencies secretly were facilitating contraband to be sold to Iran. And they were using the proceeds from that as well as from illegal narcotics to covertly support the Contras fighting the Sandinistas in Nicaragua. And I swear to God, I'd turn this off.
My shit just vibrated too, actually. I'm going to have to figure that out.
This is how tech illiterate I am. I don't know who's calling me on a Saturday like that, whatever. Anyway, Oliver North was one of the cohorts in Iran-Contra. He actually ran for president later. Most of these people end up getting presidential pardons or whatnot from Bush Sr. Bush Sr. used to be the director of the CIA, all right, in the 70s. He made great relationships with Saudi Arabia. But during Iran-Contra, the Israelis and the U.S. were secretly selling contraband, which they weren't supposed to be doing. They couldn't make enough proceeds from that, so they started selling cocaine and crack into New Orleans, Miami, and Los Angeles, mainly entry points. And in Louisiana, they actually, all the way up to the governor level, was involved in the mafia. So very easy for them. And they were training pilots in Arkansas because they had willing participants in the Clintons that allow them to train pilots to bring guns in and drugs out. And the world learned a new term called plausible deniability. So when Ollie North was in the trial, he talked about.
Wait, is that really where that came from? Is that really where that came from?
That's what made it famous. Yeah, wow. It was that plausible deniability. So it's saying like, yeah, well, why'd you do it like that? It's like we wanted to be able to deny an operation. So they want to make it look like, oh, the Contras are just getting guns and stuff somehow themselves from selling drugs or whatever. but actually the CIA was bringing them in there by the plane load and bringing cocaine and whatnot back. And with Al Qaeda, they also have plausible deniability, so they're going to put layers between themselves and the low ranking schmo on the ground that's the suicide bomber, whatever. He has no clue, but there's a handlers is what they call them in between the terrorist and the intelligence agency, and they often use foreign powers mainly because ours is so inept at learning Arabic and other languages, so we rely heavily on the Israelis.
And Egypt as well, I think is one of. But what I wanted to say is they kind of use this. It's like a buffer. So if you've looked into mafia type shit, which I have because I'm a fan of mafia movies and the actual study of the mafia and stuff like that. But like a Don will never directly say anything. He has gophers and buffer zones. Is that what you're saying? These people are kind of like a level of deniability between the intelligence agency.
Yeah, the Don would say something like, "Why don't you guys go have a nice lunch or something?"
This guy's bothering me. Yeah,
but he'd outsource that to some made man who'd go to a soldier, who'd go to the hitman from another city to come to his city and take care of business.
Right.
Never in your own yard is one of their rules.
Right.
So if they want to kill someone in New York, they'd probably hire somebody from Chicago, from the outfit or something, and they'd have to negotiate it. The mob doesn't just go around
his mafia too. By the way, I can tell.
To murder somebody is pretty high level. Like this judge they just attempted to assassinate. That's $250,000 hit right there to kill a judge. And it's they're much more business like about it. I don't know what you
go ahead. I didn't mean to derail it, by the way.
But yeah. But anyway, the CIA and all is it is structured a bit like the mob, or the mob structured like them, where the CIA is not going to send a CIA agent to kill somebody.
They're not.
They're going to have a terrorist do it. They're going to use some expendable nobody that if they get caught, so what? It's plausible deniability. But you got to explain, like, where are they getting TOW missiles from, and where are they didn't build those. They bought them on the black market. Oh, really? How they get that? And we know it's the CIA, but they want to be able to deny it, right? And with Al Qaeda, from the 80s on to now, fighting in Syria, they've been covertly getting support, both logistical support, money, guns, weapons, etc., from intelligence agencies. And of course, they're going to deny that. They're going to say we hit ourselves. No way. But again, it's very similar to Syria, where an American journalist had his head cut off, and they say, "Oh, we're just supporting the moderate rebels," but we're not supporting the moderate rebels. Were a conduit to the unmoderate, or no moderate rebels, but they were supporting ISIS, Al-Sham, HTS, Al-Nusra Front, all these bad, very bad people, as Trump would call them. They're bad guys,
bad hombres. Yeah.
And we know, everyone knows, and I've documented all of how they did it through getting small arms from Bulgaria and shipping them through Purple Shovel, and how they got the guns there and so on and so on. It shouldn't shock anyone if you know about Syria, if you know about Afghanistan, if you know about Iran-Contra, and endless examples where intelligence agencies and terrorist groups are working together. Why would it shock you that on September 11th, that they absolutely knew there was a planned attack using airplanes and what the targets were, and let it happen anyway? That's the first thing you have to say to normies, is establishing what
Al-Qaeda you know what?
is.
I'll say this, and again, obviously I'm not as well versed on 9/11 and the intricacies and the stuff behind the scenes and the blow by blow and the timeline of what happened, obviously, as you are. But one of the things that always jumped out to me, and I think to most regular people, is why didn't they shoot these fucking planes down? And so there are all sorts of protocols and, procedures that say that this plane should have been, all these planes really should have been shot.
They should have got them. They should have got at least the three after the first
planes
attack.
Aren't supposed to be flying, especially jumbo jets flying around fucking Manhattan. That's not supposed to be allowed to happen. And anyway, go ahead. I don't want to take.
Yeah, I mean, you would say like, well, at least Flight 1193 and 77 should have been shot down.
Shoot that shit down. That's not. And of course, you know what's funny now?
They didn't even scramble the jets until it was too late.
It's
They're a little bit confused because there was a drill very similar to 9/11 happening on 9/11. They even were asking, "Is this real or exercise?" Right? But on Flight 77, Hanjar actually came in at too high an altitude, had to do a giant loop around Washington, D.C., which is not some unpopulated rural area or something, and then come in a second time to hit the Pentagon. So, and Cheney refused to shoot it down, and the transportation secretary, name is Norman Mineta, recounts this, where whoever's at the monitor, whatever soldier, whatever, was saying it's 30 miles out, sir. The plane's 20 miles out. Does this order still stand? Cheney whips his neck around. He's like, of course it still stands. Have you heard otherwise? Like, he had 2 chances to shoot that plane down and didn't. And that's either insane incompetence or some purpose.
So, but you know what? So when I didn't see the first plane hit. I've told this story on air before, but I got a phone call from my mother not my mother at the time, my mother now even. But at the time, I got a phone call from my mother. I won't give the full backstory to everything that happened, but I woke up and she said, "Oh, there's something happened at the World Trade Center. A plane, fucking hit it. They don't know what's going on. Turn on the TV." She said, "Turn on the TV," and it was 8:30 or so. And I turned on the TV, and it was the Today Show, because that's usually what I turned on around that time back in the day. And it was Matt Lauer, and they're all sitting there, and you can see the whichever. I don't know if it's the North or the South that got hit first. And you can see, they're just talking like, what happened? What's going on? Oh, my God, this is unbelievable.
Do you like Matt Lauer? Because he exposed himself too.
Well, Matt, he said he's innocent, so yes, I love Matt Lauer. Now, the plane, while I was watching this, the plane came out of the side of the screen and hit the other fucking building, and then at that point, it became clear that there was no accident. But you know what? If you knew what was going on, if you knew the regulations and stuff like that at the time, you would already know that there was something majorly wrong at the very beginning. Like, if you're just a regular citizen, so I was sitting there watching and said, oh, well, I don't know, maybe a fucking plane just drifted off course and, hit the building or whatever. Maybe that's possible. But really, that's not supposed to be anywhere near possible that they would allow them to.
That's very improbable, yes.
Right, exactly. But you don't necessarily, I really at the time. Of course,
it's actually pretty hard to hit on purpose even.
Yeah, but at the time,
building's
I was like,
barely the length of the plane, the width of the plane.
Right.
It's
but I'm saying a regular person's like, oh, well, I don't know. Maybe they drifted off and just fucking slapped it. But that's not. They never even fly over that area. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's and all the buildings have those orange lights on them and stuff, and it shouldn't have been able to fly that low, that fast, that anything. It shouldn't have been able to turn around mid-course without anybody doing anything for such a long time. But when you're relying on government agencies for anything, it's not going to work because it's government. I mean, I can actually see that failing just because we're seeing that right now with police and everything else. They don't do what they do on TV. Like, real life and Hollywood are very different. The Hollywood version of cops and the CIA and lawyers and all has such a positive image. It's all James Bondy, and real life, is a complete opposite.
Sure.
Complete opposite. But they definitely had, there's no reason not to shoot down Flight 93 or 77 because they came way after the first 2 attacks. And nothing should get anywhere near the White House or the Pentagon, right? Especially the Pentagon. And he flew over it twice, and they didn't do anything. And that's just suspicious. It doesn't prove anything. But let's take that flight, for example. 3 of the individuals on that site, actually, Nawif al-Hazmi and Khalid al-Midhar and Hanji Hanjour, were traced back to a West Coast cell where they had been receiving support and money from the Saudi crown. And our own FBI traced money from Bandar Bush and Princess Haifa, from Prince Turki bin Fasil, to Mawid Daquette and another wife of Omar Bayoumi and Osama Basnan, who were Saudi assets, who in turn sent the money to the hijackers and also rented them an apartment and lived in the same house for a month and then lived right across the street from them. And their story is, we just saw them. They're laundering money through a Kurdish mosque in San Diego, but they're saying they saw them in Culver City, which is LA, and said, they were just some poor Saudis that could barely speak English going to flight schools, and we thought we'd buy them a house, right? Because we're just nice guys. Yeah. They were supporting them, gave them logistical support. They gave them a place to stay. One of them had a no-show job at a gas station even. And they were taking checks through Omar Bayoumi's wife was sending them to Al Hazmi through Riggs Bank, which was a classic CIA money laundering bank for a long period of time before there's a brief window where BCCI was number one, and then it went back to Riggs, but they still operate. And so there we had state sponsorship of September 11th because Saudi Arabia was sending money and buying a house and giving logistical support to 3 of the hijackers. And the CIA knew about these guys because, and this is in their own documents, the CIA had traced them. These people had fought. They were part of the USS Cole bombing. They were in Bosnia. They'd been all over. They're already terrorists. Way before 9/11, they were known terrorists. They met with Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, who is the uncle of Ramzi Youssef, who is the individual that plotted and blew up a Ryder truck in the World Trade Center in 1993. Do you remember that?
I do.
The truck bomb
The
in
blonde
93?
sheik or whatever. Yeah.
This is another sheikh, but the his nephew is Ramzi Youssef, and so Ramzi Youssef's uncle, who is a 9/11 plotter, is meeting at an Al Qaeda summit meeting in Malaysia. And the CIA knew because they had their phones tapped. They had a cell in Yemen, and there was a cell in Hamburg, and they had the cell phones tapped on all these people. They knew exactly where they were going, what they were doing. The Hamburg cell included people like Ziad al-Jar and Mohammed Atta and so on. After they met with KSM and stayed the night with them and met with all these Al-Qaeda figures that the CIA had eyes on, somehow they're allowed to get visas out of Jeddah on the fast track program, fly to the United States, live in California with their real names, and go to flight schools. And the Secretary of State, Condoleezza Rice, is saying it's got a report called Bin Laden Determined to Attack America, and they couldn't envision that it was going to be airplanes when you have terrorists going to flight schools. And the plot from Ramzi Youssef originally after the World Trade Center bomb of 93 was to fly commercial airliners into American targets on the West Coast. So there's no way. I just can't believe they're that incredibly stupid. They didn't know. But regardless, you don't need the speculation because they should have shared all that information with the FBI and they didn't. Because once they're domestic, right, the CIA doesn't mess with them. That's the FBI's job. And they did not share information with the FBI to say, by the way, did you know known terrorists are going to flight schools in San Diego and came in LA? And no, they didn't say anything until August of 2001 when they were no longer there because they moved east. It was too late. And this information was covered up for an extremely long time. Now, I had it out in my film, Empire and Mass. I had a way of obtaining this. And I even went and talked to DOD officials in DC and insiders and everything. Later, though, a 28-page consecutive pages of redacted information from the Joint Intelligence Senate investigation, the JIS report, was unredacted, and it revealed a lot of what I just said that they had known. And so Bush and others knew this, and any congressman who wanted to could go read the unredacted version in a soundproof room and all these restrictions, right? And know that there was Saudi support for September 11th. Now, I'm not even getting to the Israelis yet, but right there, it's a state sponsorship for Al-Qaeda that the CIA was aware of, that they did not inform the FBI of. And then you got the vice president refusing to shoot down the plane that these individuals were on. He had 2 chances. And then it just keeps getting worse. And then the information about all of it gets redacted, right? Up until like 2014 or so, it took us to put pressure on there to unredact the documents. And then even after that was done, other than like Congressman Ron Paul and a few others, nobody would talk about it. It wasn't on TV. It was this huge 9/11 news and big nothing burger. No one cared. And part of the reason why is because people like Alex Jones and Loose Change have been screaming so loud that, there was no plane at the Pentagon, that it was a missile and blah, blah, blah. They always want everybody barking up the wrong tree on a path to nowhere. Because if you don't admit airplanes and hijackers and there's no paper trail back to intelligence agencies or anything else, you just think like, I don't know, the government had a missile launcher on the yard and shot the wall and somehow made a plane disappear and whatever. That crazy stuff was disseminated so widely that other people hear about 9/11 truth and go, oh, whatever, I've heard that. That's all nonsense. Right.
Right.
Or worse, they believe in the nonsense.
And also, so sometimes, honestly, we've talked about this on the show before, and I've had people, but there's other people who come on question the official 9/11 narrative, but they've made it to where, like, you have to be careful. Like, I sit here and think, oh man, because it's like a black mark against you. Oh, what do you mean you're questioning the official 9/11 narrative? What the fuck? Do you hate America? Like, what is your problem? And so I don't know. I guess it's a little bit less now, maybe, but yeah,
because I don't hate America is why I question it, because I want to know what happened, and I know what Al Qaeda is and was, and I want to find out who actually attacked.
By the way, thank you, chat. I see a lemon party going on live in the chat right now. Sorry, go ahead, Ron.
Lemon party? All right.
Lemon party, yes. That's what we called it here when they just floods of lemons here. That's the standard.
Oh, lemons, the D-Live currency.
The smallest donation. Yes, I haven't turned into a full porn star live just yet. It's the smallest form of donation there on D-Live.
Got to get on that OnlyFans, man.
You know what? You know what's funny is after all
I thought about doing OnlyFans.
No, dude, I swear to
politics.
God. I swear to God, after all that shit happened, I thought about opening an OnlyFans as a joke. But, I talked to some other content creators, and maybe they're a little wild or whatever. But they said that they had done an OnlyFans, and that OnlyFans really lets you stream pretty much whatever the fuck you want on OnlyFans.
Yeah, I think you could go on there as a censorship-free platform.
Yeah, they really were actually encouraging me to unironically use OnlyFans, not to fucking show my ass, but to, do shows and stuff, bonus shows and stuff.
People pay you to not show your ass.
Right, don't pay me. Yeah, exactly. We have a minimum every night, or you see
like, if you guys don't start listening to what I'm saying, the shit's coming off right now.
Every night, the gun's coming out. You better fucking hit that minimum, goddammit. But yeah, I swear to God, by the way, I'm not joking. I see Worski in the chat. I swear to God, I'm not kidding. A lot of people, I will say a lot, 3 or 4 creators actually.
Isn't Worski like a OnlyFans, what do you call it? He
was reviewing.
Like
He's
a praiser or something?
He retired from that life. But yeah, I mean, we're making jokes about it, but literally some people encouraged me to try that out.
Wait, you're starting an OnlyFans?
Literally, I didn't do it just because of the talking point, but yeah, some people encouraged me to do it.
Oh, yeah. Yes, chat. Convince him to start an OnlyFans.
Call it Okanocho.
Bibble, what are you doing here?
Oh, I just came to ask how Ryan's doing. How he's feeling.
Oh, you don't give a fuck about me, your oldest friend.
See
on the
how
show?
his mental health is. See how if he feels depressed or if he's been having suicidal thoughts or anything. Or just honestly, man, how the fuck do you stay alive? Do you only eat kosher? Is that what it is? Is that the secret? How did you not get poisoned yet, motherfucker?
Well, I'm staying alive because I got another baby on the way in just a couple months, so I got to be a daddy for him.
Yeah, there's a lot of.
I think living in Japan has helped me avoid a lot of.
Okay, plots. Yeah, that explains it.
Although I was back in the U.S. for 2 years, and I got death threats and stuff, but nobody ever followed through. I was like, bring it on. If I see you in my yard, I'll shoot you. I mean, I don't know, but it was good to get out of there.
Cirrhosis everywhere, man. You can't.
Not everywhere. Not Hatteras Island. It's We don't have any orange skies or weirdos in pajamas down there. So
yeah, I was just curious. Apparently, that's what people got to do now. We got to move to Japan. Maybe we can vote in some good gun laws there, and I can move there.
I guess so. I mean, I moved when Bush got reelected. Even after starting the Second Iraq War, I said, fuck it, I'm out. I'm not living here. And then I went back to the U.S. But when I had kids, I was like, man, I don't want them in the American educational system learning all this liberal, stupid shit. So we moved, came back here.
By the way,
it's pretty much better on every measuring stick. Shout
out to Killstream Uncut, all one word. The stream is up today. The restream is up on Killstream Uncut. We love Kaz. It actually was his fault last night, but the night before it wasn't his fault. but we still love him. It's up all one word on Killstream Uncut, and he also recorded the Harrison Smith interview earlier, my segment that I did with Harrison. So thank him for that too. That's also on Killstream Uncut, and I put that on the podcast feed too. So if you're hearing this, maybe you heard that. A little bonus for the podcast gang. I saw a podcast ganger check in earlier. Sometimes I see them come in just for a second to throw a little love out there. I forgot the name because it got ran out of town by the Lemon Party. But thank you guys. I appreciate you guys when you can check in live. So
hey, I had a lemon craft tea here.
CGI.
I remember the first time I was on Killstream. I called in to tell you guys that Tanaka guy was not going to show up to fight Andy Warski. I was like,
You did, and I remember saying no. I think he's going to show up.
I would have bet anything.
And I was wrong. I remember saying there's no way he can't show up. He has to show up, even though I was disgusted with Tanaka at that point, completely done with him, and was shitting on him pretty much every day. But I said Tanaka, yeah, that's what we'll call him. I said, no, he's Tanaka. No, he's Tanaka. He's Tanaka from now on. Tanaka will show up. I said Tanaka would show up. And he didn't. What a fucking coward.
He's a pretendian anyway, right?
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
Yes,
he's Puerto Rican,
he's
and he claims that's Indian.
Mexican,
that's not how that works. That's not how that works.
No, it isn't.
I'm sure you know how that works, Ryan. I'm sure you've had
a bunch of pretendians. The worst pretendians are the Elizabeth Warren types that are like, blue eyes and everything. They're like, well, I kind of have high cheekbones. I'm like, well, white people have high cheekbones sometimes.
All right, let me read these real quick, and we'll get back to the narrative. CGI Seagull says, Ryan Dawson and Bibble on same stream. Best Friday ever. Thanks, Ralph. You're welcome. By the way, the last night's show was a classic. I'm sorry. I know there were a couple people on Twitter that were mad about it. Very few. But if you're mad about that show, you don't understand the kill stream. This guy got on to me, and he said, I watched the kill stream for 2 years, and that's not. I said, if you're mad about last night's show, you don't understand what the fuck we're doing here on the kill stream. That's all I will say about that. Subculture says, I will be there at 11. Ryan better be there. That's Mr. Andy Warski. He'll be here in 40 minutes or less. Weepy P Hole says, Tanaka Dong. Ryan Dawson, I read that one. Let's see. CGI Seagulls with a couple diamonds, few diamonds previously, very kind. And everybody else, I believe, got crowded out by the lemons, but that's okay because we love them. Go ahead. Now let's pick back up with the narrative that you were telling the blow by blow there that you were doing, Mr. Dawson.
Yeah, it's already.
I had one of my super chats. They want to. Sure. They really want that shirt with the Japanese phrase on it for Gunt.
Oh, they do? Okay, we'll make that happen. Yeah, definitely.
Make something happen.
I thought you meant they wanted his Chris Chan shirt.
That's what I thought too. By the way, this is not a Chris Chan shirt. If you look at the Chris Chan shirt, it's a completely different fucking logo. I've got the horse crest logo.
You need your Sonic shoe.
I've got the no. Fuck you, Bibble. I've got the horse crest logo. It's not even the same fucking colors. He's got the Chaps Ralph Lauren logo. It's not the same. Fuck off. Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm wearing a USS Liberty shirt.
That's very appropriate.
I've never heard of the USS Liberty. What happened there?
Oh, really?
It is not even close to Chris Trent. You know what? I didn't. You know what's funny? I didn't wear this shirt. Hold on, let me see. I can't even see it.
It's Hellstorm.
There it is.
Oh yeah, can you pin him?
The USS Liberty was a ship that our greatest ally attacked while LBJ was president and tried to blame on the Egyptians, and then acted like they didn't know it was an American ship. They absolutely did, and they murdered American sailors. And all we did, and this is the ironic thing. Around the same time, the Gulf of Tonkin, which didn't happen, was a boat that was not fired on, and it ended up starting the war in Vietnam to kill 2 million Vietnamese and about 55,000 Americans. The American ship that was fired on by the Israelis, which did kill American sailors and did happen, all we did is give more money. So that's a brief. And John McCain's father helped cover it up. And right now you got people pissed at Trump because he said something about John McCain, like, I like my heroes to not get captured.
Oh, dude. That's still
literally, that's all. He wasn't even supposed to be a fucking a pilot or some shit. Like he got in there because of nepotism, because his dad
was an admiral, and he he's Songbird McCain. He gave the Viet Cong our altitudes and times and everything for helicopters so they could shoot more people down. And He set a U.S. boat on fire. That's why when that boat caught on fire last year, I was like, I thought John McCain was gone. Who's setting our ships on fire? But I'm pretty sure when the tumor took him out, we always say to the tumor, that because the tumor should get a Nobel Peace Prize for going on a brave suicide mission to take down a terrorist traitor to the United
We
States.
usually play the full tribute song every time we mention John McCain's tumor, but yeah. Go
Oh
ahead.
well, TRS did a
I'm just kidding.
McCain song. I have a annual McCain Still Dead party every year in August. So.
That's good.
But I'm pretty sure Al Qaeda had their flags at half mast when John McCain's coffin did its like 22-day tour.
They definitely started calling their
His
financial
coffin's
advisors
tour
at
was
that
longer
point.
than McCain's Vietnam tour.
Yeah.
Songbird McCain, may he rest in hell with it. Jeff Epstein and the rest of them. Sumner Redstone just joined him. We had a good August. Like a lot of shitty people died.
If only Sheldon Adelson could join them soon. Hyphen says Andy needs to get to Flight Simulator. Wait, Andy needs to Flight Simulator a building today. Pensive Cowboy says, if we sent a pendant, would you wear it for Sonichu? I don't know. I would consider it just for the laughs. But in all honesty, as the next super chat, where's that at? Cold Smoke Bear says, Chaps could have had a polo shirt. He's wearing a Chaps shirt. This is a full polo shirt in a different color pattern, although somewhat similar if you're colorblind. Fuck you. Groomer Remover says, got my stickers. Thanks for the extra K, brother. You're welcome. In all honesty, I wore this shirt once, and I thought it was funny, but I didn't wear it again because I was like, what, fuck this. But then tonight I said, you know what? That's not the same shirt. I don't give a fuck.
I don't know that. What is it? Another person wears a similar shirt
Chris
on a show.
Chan's got a knockoff shirt that's a different color than this. It's
Chris
not the same
Chan's
shirt.
this internet lol.
So what? I'm
He
just
had
supposed to
story.
never wear this
So-
shirt? Fuck off. This shirt is
Hold on,
fine.
who had it first?
It's not the same shirt, Ryan.
Well,
That's
who
the
had it
problem.
first?
But he's
Who had
wearing
it
a
first?
different. It's Chaps versus Ralph Lauren. That's not even the same fucking label. All right. Anyway, Hyphen says already read.
It sounds
that.
like first world problems.
Yeah, it does.
There's Chaps versus Ralph Lauren, and there's another color thread.
I
Wow.
am. Whatever. I am Mythos says Ryan is a true engine. Then he says flight sim from Berlin bunker to Argentina. Quality banana. Says shout out to Barb Chandler. Pensive Cowboy says Ralph bought this specifically for his cosplay. That is untrue. A couple of entropy super chats here. Colonel J says the Israeli fears not only the samurai but the engine too. Brett says Ryan is owning the Johnny Gat and Alex Jones kooks today. Please get Johnny Gat to debate this Kyle man. What is the background of that? I don't know anything about that.
It's just some jungleese and loser that keeps making videos about me. I don't feed the trolls.
Okay. All right, fair enough. Okay, now go ahead, continue. We completely derailed, so just pick up wherever you want here.
Let's see. I was gonna segue from McCain to Al Qaeda back to 9/11.
That's fine. Just
somehow, but-
I'll just turn it over to you for a couple, like 5-10 minutes. I'll bring in some callers. We have callers as well. They want to talk to you a lot.
So anyway, there's so much about 9/11 other than the buildings look like they collapsed too fast, right? And I got really sick of all these 9/11 films that were just, that's all they talked about is a free fall speed, own footprint, and buildings don't fall from fire, blah, blah, blah. And I just thought, I don't see that going anywhere because you're not talking about who did it. You can't just say like they or the NWO or the elite or the globalists or the Luciferians or the, that's all just words for they, right? There are no names. There's no specifics. So I wanted to concentrate on who did it. I often use this analogy. If someone set your house on fire, I don't think you're going to sit there and split hairs about whether or not they use gasoline or kerosene. I think you're going to want to know who set your house on fire, right? And so if you think there was covert support or controlled demolition or whatever you do, don't you want to know who did it? And there is some evidence of more than just the planes taking down World Trade Center 1 and 2. And this is where people lose their shit because all they want to do is talk about Building 7. Because everyone else already talks about Building 7, in the time I have, I'm going to concentrate on the stuff I think you don't know already, right?
Okay, right.
Quickly, Building 7 wasn't hit by a plane, fell straight down, looked like too fast. That's all they have. On the World Trade Centers, you had, first of all, the fire suppression systems didn't work. And they almost solely relied on those working to put out a fire should one occur on such a high floor because none of the hoses from the ground can reach it. You'd have to go up all these flights of stairs to get up there, and none of the ladders could go. So the way they would fight fire, should it occur on the 90th floor or 100th floor or anything up higher than what they can reach, was the fire prevention systems in the building, like the sprinkler systems. Those had been sabotaged, and the people who did it went to jail for 10 years. Now, if you've been listening to Alex Jones or whatever, you wouldn't know this, but there were people who were caught with a pass to do work in the World Trade Center dated September 5th, who could not explain what kind of work they were doing in the tower. They had another card on their person for work on fire suppression systems for a company that didn't exist. It was a residential address in New York by Sergey Dinko and David Connell. It's called Magic Heating and Plumbing. They were not authorized to do work inside the World Trade Center. Only the Port Authority could do such a thing, and they never authorized anything. But these people had passes and were doing it anyway. The way they got caught was serendipitous. They were in Tennessee getting fake license for trucks, and because you didn't need a social security number in Tennessee in 2001, and they got a sting pulled on them then, and then on their person they had these World Trade Center passes and stuff when they got arrested. So it all came unraveled. The key witness from the Department of Motor Vehicles in that, her name was Catherine Smith, and the day before the trial she was burned alive in a car that was given to her by Khalid Odala from Jerusalem, who was the head of the cell that did work on the towers. Now, that should bother people, that there were people doing illegal work on the sprinkler systems, because had those come on, fire would have done minimal damage rather than being able to take down the building. In addition to the planes and the fire suppression systems being broken, there appears to have been truck bombs in the parking garage. This is not a bomb on every floor. And I really hate that. Like, people take a legitimate case and then exaggerate it to the nth degree until it becomes meaningless. And they do that with this. They do it with the Holocaust. They do it with global warming. They take something that real, let's say global warming is occurring, whether you think it's man-made or partly man-made or the sun or whatever. It's the earth is not going to be gone in 10 years or anything like AOC says. All the ice on Kilimanjaro didn't melt like Al Gore tried to fake. He also had he took footage from the day after tomorrow and acted like it was real ice shelves collapsing and stuff, and it wasn't. So they took a real cause, added exaggeration sauce onto it, and then people look at it and throw the baby out with the bathwater. If you start saying there's a bomb in every window and stuff, you look ridiculous. But we do have evidence of truck bombs, because it reported on the day of September 11th by Rick Sanchez, another Pat Dawson, no relation to me, reported that they found, the police found, and this is from the chief of police and fire department, who died that day, by the way, but said there was a van with a suspicious device, explosive device packed inside, and that they pulled that out and brought it to the Church of Dades, towed it out of there. So there were bombs in a car or in a van that they found inside the World Trade Center on September 11th. They find another van later near the George Washington Bridge packed with explosives. And they would end up finding 5 more vans scattered throughout New York and New Jersey that belonged to a moving company, tenants of whom, employees of whom were caught celebrating September 11th, flicking lighters, high-fiving, hugging, and filming the event. They placed at Doric Tower in New Jersey. It's on a high-rise. You can see the Freedom Tower from there right now. Had a clear view of the World Trade Centers, and these guys had maps marked with the World Trade Centers and Doric Towers on it. There's no real reason to mark the World Trade Center on a map. You can find them from anywhere, right? And Doric Towers is nothing special. Why would you need to highlight that on a map too? But they did. And in the police lineup, people who lived at Doric had pulled at least one of these guys out, and he was witnessed there on September 7th and September 10th, the day before and 3 days before, 4 days before September 11th. Sivan Kursberg, Oded Eldner, and Joran Schmel, they're all Jewish Israelis that work for a company called Urban Moving Systems, were caught celebrating the attacks. They left, and some of the witnesses wrote down the license plate and called the authorities. The authorities had a lot to do that day, right? But they put out a bolo, be on the lookout. And these men were pulled over close to 4 o'clock, like 3:50 in the afternoon. They had visited a gas station and then gone to another moving company called White Glove Movers. where they picked up 2 cohorts. One was the brother of the driver. His name was Paul Kursberg, and another guy named Omar Mamari. And it looked like they were about to leave town because there were skis in the car. You don't go skiing in New Jersey or New York City that I know of. And so they were about
I'm not
to leave.
aware of any areas up there where there's good skiing. Of course, I'm not a skiing enthusiast, but yeah, go ahead.
They did not understand that all the they weren't going to be able to leave for a couple of days because all the flights are grounded. But they had plane tickets with immediate destinations to leave the country. I figured out where they went. Jorn Schmel went to India because I found his LinkedIn pictures of it and stuff. This guy's such a dick. He got married on September 11th the following year. He thought it was such a great day. He made it his wedding day. Elmer went to Germany, and another one went to Australia. And this is pretty odd for some furniture moving employees from Israel to suddenly go on vacation in the middle of September, not on a holiday or anything, just a random Tuesday in September. And they had over $5,000, $4,700 in a pouch and another $3,000 on the guy in the back. $5,000 among them in cash. Now, I don't walk around Jersey City in New York with $5,000. Do you?
No. I feel
I
uncomfortable even with $100. Actually, yeah, no. No,
$5,000 in 2001 was worth more than it is now. That was 19 years ago. That there has been some
closer to 10 grand probably now. Yeah.
It's a lot of money now. Yeah. It was even more money then. And if you're a guy, I used to move furniture. I was never going to get $5,000 in cash. Now, some of the Israelis, however, did have an extortion ring where they would go and start moving stuff out, be like halfway done, and then hold your stuff hostage unless you paid up in cash. That's one of the little mafia things they used to do. So that might have been an explanation for that, but it doesn't explain the plane tickets everywhere out of the country, and it doesn't explain them why they would celebrate a plane hitting a building. Like, what's funny about that, right? And they also knew another plane was coming because they hang around until the second attack, right? So they definitely had foreknowledge at minimal of this. Then you find other vans with bombs and so on. And it appears the plan was, and this is my speculation, but it's very reasonable. The plan was they were going to blame the truck bombs on Palestinians and rope Al-Qaeda and Hamas together, because there were calls to the police anonymously in broken English saying that they had seen Palestinians mixing a bomb in a van at the airport, and these vans were headed toward the World Trade Center. How you know where they're headed? Who knows? How can you tell someone's Palestinian just by eyeballing them? Do they have a Palestinian flag on the van or something? They would just look like brown people, right? But whatever. That's what they said.
Why would you mix it at the airport?
Exactly. Oh, we're just going to open up a van and start mixing bomb stuff. There's no way. The whole thing doesn't make sense. How do you know that's what they're mixing? And what are they making, some sort of liquid bomb? Like, what are you talking about? None of it made any sense, but that's what they called it and said. But what the police did, so instead of looking out for that van, what that caller didn't know is that there was already a bolo out for another van full of Israelis who had been caught celebrating the attack. There was another van in Liberty State Park with Israelis waiting there. The whole park was closed to car traffic after the hit, so they had to be there before it happened. And Glenn Ford, he writes for the Black something. I can't remember. Blacklisted News, I think, something like that. But he witnessed the whole thing, and they were speaking Hebrew to each other and so on. So there's all these vans start getting found as far away as Pennsylvania, even unexplained, lying about their whereabouts. The 5 that got arrested, all in their interrogation, they all lied about where they were. And probably the most telling is as soon as they got pulled over, the driver, Sivan, says, "We're not your problem. Your problem are our problem. The Palestinians are the problem." Just out of the blue, talking about Palestinians. Yarin said in his police interrogation that they were on the West Side Highway during the event. That's not true. They were at Doric Towers, as known by their own camera footage. They didn't delete it in time, and witnesses and so on. And now we have photographs of their bodies. At least their heads were removed, but we have the clothing, and I have their mug shots. So all you got to do is match the mug shot to the clothing, and you can figure out everybody in the pictures. But they also celebrated on the roof of Urban Moving Systems because there's 4 events. You have each tower getting hit, and you have each tower falling down. And when the towers are falling down, they were back at Urban Moving Systems on the roof. And in the interrogation, and the names are all redacted, but blank says to blank, get your camera. We're about to take down the second tower. So there's further evidence of how would you know exactly when the tower is going to go, right? Unless there's some sort of follow-up explosion below. There is seismic evidence of that. There are eyewitnesses for that. The entire subway was full of smoke from something, and that's not from a plane hitting 94 floors above. And then the panels and glass and things in the lobby had all been shook and broken from something that went kaboom below as something hit above. So there is evidence of more than planes hitting the World Trade Centers. It doesn't matter to me so much as how many vans or what all C4 or RDX or et cetera. RDX was the type of explosives in the van on the George Washington Bridge. That's probably what they use, but it's a moot point to me. What pisses me off is how we know for sure that they erroneously attached the event of 9/11 to Iraq so that they could start a war, which ended up murdering over 1 million people over nothing.
Well, yeah, that's
That
my
should piss
main
everyone off.
contention, actually, with 9/11 as well. Not even just the Afghanistan thing. I mean, pretty much everybody supported Afghanistan at the time. I mean, I think that's not everybody, but it was like 80, 90%.
Should have used a mark of reprisal. Like if Al Qaeda was in Afghanistan, then you go after Al Qaeda. You don't
Right.
take over the government, put a base in the capital. Like,
Yeah.
if somebody from Canada murdered someone in New York, we don't go flatten Toronto.
Well, it shouldn't have been a nation-building exercise. It should have been a police action type deal.
They wanted the opium, though, and that was the whole point of Afghanistan. And John McCain kind of admitted this on The Late Show. I don't remember if it was Letterman or Leno. Doesn't matter. I think it was Letterman. Whatever. He said, he talking about Afghanistan, and Patrick Little's calling me. God, I put it on hold. He said the second phase is Iraq. And he said, we have some information that this anthrax may have come from Iraq. That was October 15th on The Late Show, whatever late show it was. And what's the first phase? The second phase is Iraq, and they may have gotten anthrax. What was phase one? It was obviously Afghanistan. You have to procure the opium because until, like I was saying earlier, until you control the narcotics traffic, you cannot afford to pay all these terrorists around the world without a black budget. And Vietnam was a heroin war, and Afghanistan was another heroin war. I used to call Vietnam the war of helicopters and heroin. It was not to stop communism. It was not any other rhetoric. It was there to get in the Golden Crescent and then move to the Golden Triangle. And we're talking about a $64 billion a year budget from Afghanistan on opioids. And it's created an opioid crisis in the United States because the price of heroin and all the other derivatives that you can get from opium and opium itself and the opium base and blah, 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 dramatically dropped because the supply increased so much. And the mob in Newark actually has been bringing it in right there in the airport. So Jersey got hit very hard by the heroin crisis. And that's all related to the war in Afghanistan. Trump is now bringing troops home from Afghanistan. He's leaving a nominal.
That's true.
Force
I meant
behind.
to do the story the other day. Actually, there was a story about that. But yeah, go ahead.
There's some news from Tulsi Gabbard.
Like right now?
Yeah, you got to hear. This is unrelated, but we got to bring this up.
Sure.
You know about Cuties on Netflix?
Yes, we did
Not
a
Cooties,
debate
Cute-
on that
okay.
last night. Actually, yeah.
Yeah. She says at Netflix, child porn cuties will certainly whet the appetite of pedophiles.
Wow.
And help fuel the sex trafficking trade. 1 in 4 victims of trafficking are children. It happened to my friend's 13-year-old daughter. Netflix, you are complicit. Hashtag cancel Netflix. That is a sitting member of Congress saying to cancel Netflix and that they are complicit to child trafficking and porn. Damn.
Yeah, and there it goes.
I wish she had gotten the nomination. I can swallow all the things I disagree with her about because, I mean, look at Biden. Jesus.
I can swallow a lot from Tulsi Gabbard for sure. I would have to say.
I hear you. I'm married. So.
Let me read these. Let me read these super chats. We'll take some callers. Pensive Cowboy says, if we send a pennant, I already read that. Fuck you. I don't know. It depends on how sweet it is. Let's see. God damn it.
Everyone's just thinking about swallowing Tulsi now.
Pins of Cowboy says Ralph bought this specifically for his cosplay. Hyphen says Ralph trying to be on Blue's Clues. It looks much more like the Blue's Clues guy's shirt.
It does,
actually.
you know, I met that guy, Steve.
I heard
the
he's
guy,
based. That's what I heard, but I don't know if that's true.
Oh, we have a video
Is
of
he?
him actually.
That's what
the
I
guy-
heard. He's based as fuck. Is that actually true?
This guy Varg from Norway was in Japan.
Yeah.
Hey, y'all know him,
Of course.
So when he was here, he visited me. So I took him to this place. I made him drink a I Hate Myself, which is it's a mixture of tequila and Jack Daniels. It's pretty nasty. But while we were there, the dude from Blue's Clues was at the bar. And it's funny seeing Steve drink and stuff. Like, of course he would. He's an adult, but you just think, he's supposed to sing about the mail. So we were pretty drunk and we were like, do the mail song. And he's getting kind of mad at us. I'm like, you're going to do it. We're both big guys. And we like made him sing about the mail. And
Start
he's
bullying
like, we
him,
just
be
got
like,
a
you gotta-
letter. He just does his thing. And I was trying to tell all the Japanese people like he was a famous kids show thing. And the guy with him, and he was just really hated that we were there. But he really thought, I won't get recognized in Japan, and some random fucking foreigners with kids is like, you're the Blue's Clues guy.
It's like, oh no.
Oh no, here it goes. I'm like, you better sing a letter song. But yeah,
All
I
right,
showed him some magic tricks and stuff, and we ended up being.
Oh, I was trying to
He
think of the
pretended to
name
be
for
our
white
friends.
wrestlers in Japan. It's Gai Jin. That's what I was trying to think of the name.
Guy
there.
Jean.
Gai Jin.
Yeah.
Yes, I said it wrong, of course. Like I said.
Guy Coco Jean's how you say it. Guy Jean's like the derogatory
Gai
way.
Jin, yeah. Let's see. T. Barry says, Ralph, thanks for 9/11 truths, dancing Israelis. That term wasn't used, I noticed, but I think that is what he was.
So on YouTube, the code word is the jiggling juice.
Okay. Black Phillip says, Ralph can't. But Ryan, can you explain the clean break memo to chat?
Yeah. Okay. So the clean break paper, more than a memo, is the Israeli clean break paper strategies for securing the realm, or something that had a longer title. But it's called the clean break. It was written up by Richard Pearl, hardcore Zionist neocon. Yeah, right, exactly. For those that don't know, Richard Pearl he's not just some Zionist guy.
Well, the architects of the Iraq War, basically. But yeah,
he's an architect for the Iraq War, like the principal architect, actually.
Right, yeah.
He was already an Israeli spy. He got caught and he got convicted for that. Still is able to work at the Pentagon as a Defense for Policy. He ran a Defense for Policy board, and he set up the Office of Special Plans. It was a clique within a clique, an office within an office in the Pentagon, officially run by Douglas Feith, who's another Muppet piece of shit Zionist Jewish supremacist. And their office did nothing but cherry pick, or in some cases fabricate intelligence on Iraq in order to start a war in Iraq. And but before all that, back in 1996, an American, Richard Pearl, who worked for the American government, is writing a policy paper for an Israeli head of state. So he was writing to Netanyahu about, Israel's strategic plans, which included toppling Saddam Hussein and starting a war in Syria, which is exactly what they did. And you can go read the whole clean break paper and then realize, wow, that was in 1996. Yes. And still, after all that, people bought their lies. From the PNAC group, the Project for a New American Century.
Bill Crystal's a fucking, left-wing celebrity now, basically. These people are fucking...
Judas Miller went to work for Fox.
Right. I mean, they always land on their feet, I've noticed. Usually in a
She's
better
the one that
person
lied
than
about
started.
mobile weapons labs. She's the one that got a hoax letter of anthrax, which had an identical note in it to the real anthrax prior to it being opened. So that means the same person that sent real anthrax sent the hoax anthrax. Why would Al-Qaeda send fake anthrax to Judith Miller and real anthrax to Patrick Leahy of the Leahy Amendment, which was going to end military aid to Israel?
Judith Miller should still be in prison or just getting out now. Yeah.
But she didn't go to jail for any of that. She went to jail for the Plame affair.
Right. That's
So-
right. Yeah.
I don't know if they care about the Plame affair or not. I can explain that too. But
Go ahead.
The
For
clean
people
break-
who don't know.
Yeah, the Plame thing was just a fucking circus. That's all it was. It
Yeah,
was a distraction.
But for people who don't know, just real quick, tell them what that was, I guess. Just a quick. I do.
Well, all right. So Valerie Plame was a clandestine agent of the CIA, and she had a unit that was tracking nuclear weapons proliferation. And they were using a series of fronts, because you have to have business fronts to explain your income, what you're doing. And one of them was called Brewster Jennings and Associates. and they outed Brewster Jennings as a CIA front, which outed Valerie Plame. But in doing so, it outed all the other agents that were using Brewster Jennings and associates. So we were suddenly left in the dark on our knowledge of nuclear weapons proliferation. Then they went and lied and said, oh, Saddam Hussein tried to get yellow cake uranium from Niger, because they know we have nobody looking anymore because we lost all our agents. He was not doing that, by the way. And the documents they based it on, which came from Michael Ledeen and Ghorbanifar, both of whom were involved in Iran-Contra and should be in jail anyway. They lied, and they had an obsolete foreign minister signing the supposed documents of the oxidized uranium he was going to buy, and someone that hadn't been in power since the 80s. They had obsolete military seals. There were mistakes on the dates. They changed some of them, but not all of them. So suddenly it's 99 and then it's 2000 in the same document. It was really, really sloppy. Ended up on Bush's desk anyway. He talked about it in a speech in Ohio and the State of the Union address, where he's talking about Saddam Hussein acquiring uranium from Africa. Didn't say Niger, but and they tried another lie with the Democratic Republic of Congo, and that was all BS as well. But the Plame affair did relate to that because it put the cloud of war up when there wouldn't have been, because our agents got outed. Then these documents are so bad, the CIA said, you can't use these. These are fake. Look, there's an obsolete signature on here. The CIA is evil, but not stupid. But the neocons didn't care. They're like, yep, Saddam's trying to reconstitute nuclear weapons. Dick Cheney goes on Tim Russert's show and says that. Tim Russert, by the way, was also a leaker in the Plame affair and died shortly after. And Robert Novak, who used to do Crossfire with Tucker Carlson, was an anti-war Republican, very rare. And he ended up dying shortly after. And he talked about the Plame affair too. And that was it as far as the journalists went. But what the media did is they just focused on her husband, Joe Wilson, and all this. They ignored everything I just said and turned it into some bullshit, kind of like they do Russiagate and all the other bullshit they push. So, but Judith Miller, for her role in outing Brewster Jennings, did go to jail for 85 days. That's it. And while she's in jail, she's writing love letters to Louis Leibowitz, her partner in crime, Scooter Libby, Cheney's chief of staff, Mossad lawyer, worked for Mark Rich, who's involved in child trafficking and everything else with Pincus Green, who got pardoned by Bill Clinton, who was blackmailed by Jeffrey Epstein. It's the whole reason they got Woolsey on the case. Clinton brought Woolsey in as the DCI of the CIA.
James Woolsey,
who he hated.
you're talking about, right?
Yep, James Woolsey.
Rabid neocon, basically, yeah.
Rabid neocon. Clinton hated his guts. He brought him in anyway, and that is the source of the lies about anthrax and Muhammad Atta getting anthrax from Iraq. And Judith Miller is the one that lies about the mobile weapons labs that produced the supposed anthrax in Iraq. She's the one that got the hoax letter of anthrax. So it's like the Israelis send a fake letter to her, up her credibility. She starts talking about mobile weapons labs that don't exist, for anthrax that doesn't exist, and a meeting in Prague that didn't exist. And it's doubled down by William Safire, who got a Guardian of Zion award. And you start to see a pattern here. Even the notes themselves on the anthrax say death to America, death to Israel, right? It's real clear who really sent the anthrax. And it wasn't Iraq, and it wasn't Al-Qaeda. Well, it wasn't the Muslim Al-Qaeda that you've been taught, right? It is Al-Qaeda in a sense, because that's what Al-Qaeda is. Al-Qaeda has never been wholly separate from intelligence agencies. So they used that to get Colin Powell to go to the UN and talk about how Iraq was breaking UN Resolution 1441, stipulated they couldn't have WMDs, when they didn't. And he holds up a mock vial of anthrax. So the entire legal reason for why we went to war in Iraq was that they were in breach of this UN resolution and allegedly making anthrax, which they allegedly gave to Al-Qaeda. They didn't. And all the lies that we heard about the anthrax came from the same Israeli cabal. And what James Woolsey brought back, which he said Israeli security forces witnessed. Now this, you can't say this is a mistake. This has to be a lie because there's no fucking meeting. So you can't witness a transfer of anthrax at a meeting that never took place between two parties that didn't have anthrax. It's impossible. So they just lied. They made it up, and they knew they could get away with it because they did. I mean, even after the fact, you can say that right now. It doesn't go anywhere. And part of that's because Alex Jones would just come in talking about dimensional elves or whatever. But, you know.
I love Alex Jones and InfoWars. Amerifolk with the Ninjagini says, please summarize the Phoenix memo. Excuse me. Sorry if I missed your previous explanation. He says with the Ninjagini.
I just did all that
Yeah. Okay.
with Vincent James.
Okay.
So just go
That's
listen to that
okay. Very good.
thing. Yeah.
The real Flash Gordon says Monday Matt review cuties yet? I'm not sure if he did or not. By the way, Phoenix memo. I will put this out just to tell people what the Phoenix memo is. Letter sent to FBI headquarters on July 10th by FBI Special Agent Kenneth Williams recommending the assembling of a worldwide listing of civil aviation schools. Williams, then stationed in Phoenix, Arizona, was at the time investigating students at some of these schools for possible terrorist attacks. By the way, there's much more to it than that, but
You should definitely read the Phoenix FBI field office reports as well. I read all the West Coast reports, some of what I was reiterating about how we knew about the Al Qaeda summit meeting, blah, 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 blah. They knew about these flight schools, and they also knew about the Israeli art students. Well, like, for example, Hanan Sarfati roommate was one of the guys arrested in Tennessee getting the fake IDs. So he actually lived in the same building with one of the Israeli art students, which is another spy ring that was following Al Qaeda around, living next door to Atta. Whenever they were in Florida, so were the Israelis. And when they moved up to New York or New Jersey, so did the Israelis. Follow them everywhere. They knew what was happening. And the Miami field office actually told the Newark office in New Jersey that Al-Omari, his name is whited out, but we were able to deduce which one it was, actually got logistical support from Classic International Movers, which is one of the moving companies we were talking about earlier with Urban Moving System, to move from back and forth from Florida to New York. So the Israelis weren't just living next door. They helped pack the van and make sure they were where they needed to be and get on the plane on the final day. They 100% knew what was going to happen.
Life in Hell over on entrapystream.live/the Ralph Retort. I think you're on Entropy too, is that correct? I think so.
Yeah, I'm on Entropy. It doesn't work for certain debit cards or whatever, but
it's a little tricky. By the way,
it's all I'm allowed to use, really. So Entropy, Live app ANC report is mine. But
entrapystream.live/ANC report. By the way, so the full address is actually, and I shouldn't say this, but it's entropystream.live/app/the Ralph Retort. But if you just put in entropystream.live/the Ralph Retort, it'll go to that anyway. So that's why. That's why I never say the full address, because it's just more for me to say. Life in Hell asked about the dancing Israelis, and if you could talk about it. You did talk about that already. So thank you for that super chat.
I mean, there's a lot more on those guys and how bad their
interrogation
was and stuff.
If you want to go into it a little bit more.
The owner of the building, Dominic Suter, fled the country when the chief editor of antiwar.com, Justin Raimondo, wrote about how Suter was on the FBI's 9/11 suspects list. The FBI did an investigation into antiwar.com to figure out how they knew that. Well, it was public knowledge because the copies that they sent to, I got the Spanish one in Argentina. It has all the lists. It just says a little bit of Spanish on the top. All the names are names, though. They gave a copy of the suspects list, and I believe Justin got the Italian one and just said, well, there's Dominic Suter's name right here, and it's published right here on the official suspects list for 9/11. So when they translated the list, they didn't classify it or whatever. So he didn't break the law because it wasn't classified, nor should it have been. But right there, Dominic Suter's name sitting there between Osama bin Laden and Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and the rest of these goobers. He flees. There are 16 computer hard drives at Urban Moving Systems, which is way too many for moving furniture. The guys that actually move furniture, who were not Israelis, like the Hungarians and Russians and stuff, they hired to do the work. All said they used to have meetings in Hebrew and saying all these anti-American things, bragged about, give us 20 years, we'll take over the media and ruin your country. It's nothing but a haven of Israelis that hated the United States and made the non-Israelis do all the work. The Israelis would put together boxes and stuff. All the heavy lifting was done to the migrant workers. And they left furniture just stranded in the middle of wherever it was about to go. And the owner and his wife flee the country, refused to answer any other questions. Then in the interrogations, more and more comes out just how bad the story was. And instead of reiterating all that, I'll just tell people go to my website and get The Empire Unmasked, because it's a 5-hour movie that gets all into
What's your
9/11,
website?
especially the dancers. It's called ANC Report, like anti-neocon, or A North Carolina, ancreport.com. There's a picture there of the poster of the guy that looks like Skeletor with a Uncle Sam mask in front of it. That's where you can get the movie. And getting that movie really helps me out. Like, that's how I get to
Sure.
investigate other stuff. So
Yeah,
I'd
definitely.
appreciate it. Take it as a donation. If you want to watch the 5-hour film, you can. You can't, whatever. But it explains more on 9/11 and also a bit on Syria as well. And this was right when that started. But everything I said happened and was correct, so I didn't have to change anything.
By the way, anti-neocon report is like ANC, excuse me. Anti-neocon in the mix is one of the best names for a website ever. Okay. Brazilian Haha says Larry was so damn lucky that day. Space Cowboy 14 says I feel like I may knows who did this. The real Flash Gordon says Rye Liberty Horus the Avenger crossover win. He says there. Actually,
I used to have the Twitter called Rye Liberty. It got banned though.
I remember that one actually.
Yeah.
I think that was like 2 Twitters ago, maybe, or more. But yeah,
I think it was, 2 Twitters ago,
At least
and
2.
then one of my wife's. Yeah.
Red Rambo says Ryan, did Bush and Cheney sanction the attack?
Well, we know. I can't remember if I said this on this one or the last one, but Dick Cheney refused to shoot down Flight 77. So Bush Jr.
That's
just
public
seemed
record,
to be,
right? Yeah,
that's public record.
Yeah.
The transportation, Norman Mineta, the transportation secretary, is this account. It's in Richard Clark's book. It's in It's in a lot of places. That's what happened. Bush Jr., which is reading My Pet Goat or whatever in Florida, seemed to be completely out of the loop. He didn't know what was going on.
That's usually how he seemed, to be fair, but yeah.
Right. I think he faked
they
that
put
because when he's governor of Texas, he seemed articulate.
That's
and
true.
He didn't seem like Bush
And
Jr.,
even
right?
later in his term, too. I don't know if you noticed, at least this is something that I thought, I watched Bush a lot, is he seemed to be different later in his term, almost more competent and more like solid, at least from my view. Maybe that's just wrong. But
I love how they're all from Connecticut and he fakes a Texas accent. And
that's true.
Whenever Hillary Clinton's down the south, she's like, I don't mean no. I'm like, what are you doing?
I'm no ways tired. We've come too far to go back now. I love hot sauce. I keep it in my purse.
AOC does the same thing. He starts getting all southern out of the blue. And almost no one in the South talks like that either. It's almost like a Hollywood trope. There are areas like that. Not as bad as what Clinton was doing, but you know, it's so insincere. Don't you know there's video now? You can't just go town to town and change how you speak.
Well, that's the thing too. I mean, back in the day, that was not a bad strategy necessarily, but now they're gonna compare your voice and fucking catch you. Let's see. Ask Ryan about the anthrax and where it came from. Tom on Entropy, we did talk about the anthrax, I believe. Tom then says this with the 10 spot. Thank you very kindly. On
Didn't come from Bruce Ivins.
Tom says, can you ask Ryan about NUMEC? NUMEC. I can.
Oh yeah,
I will.
sure.
Go ahead.
So for more on the anthrax, that Vincent James interview, I talked about that for about a half hour. So you can go listen to that.
Definitely.
So NUMEC is talking about the Nuclear Equipment Corporation. It was in Pennsylvania, a place called Apollo, Pennsylvania, where the Israelis stole the enriched uranium from the United States, as well as trade secrets, so that they could illegally build nuclear weapons in Dimona in Israel. And I'm making a movie about it. Anyone say why how come Israel can get away with this or that? They stole nuclear weapons, the most guarded secret there is, from the United States, and we didn't do anything about it. And they laundered money through Holocaust charities because it was so politically sensitive that you just couldn't question a Holocaust charity, right? Right after the Holocaust, you couldn't touch that with a 6 million foot pole. So they were laundering money through that. And the Sunborn Institute, which was this organization of a bunch of Zionist Jewish millionaires, now they're billionaires, facilitated the theft of conventional weapons at first, and from the War Assets Administration, where they're getting, machine guns, dynamite, airplane parts, all these things that they were stealing. And there was a huge black market surplus of weapons after World War II all over Europe and the United States because the war had ended and they didn't need all this stuff. And so immediately when you've got cities to rebuild and you need cash and you don't need all these guns, what happens? A lot of guns and ammo that was supposed to be decommissioned actually wasn't and went on for sale in the black market, and they end up in the Middle East and Southeast Asia and everywhere else. Everybody did that. So Israel, the Haganah Palmach terrorists like Irgun, were gobbling up guns all over Europe, but also the United States. But what they really coveted was obviously the bomb. And they were able to steal that because they had insider guys like Zalman Shapiro that worked on the Nautilus program to build nuclear submarines. Was assisting them in this, and they had guys, handler for Jonathan Pollard, like Raphael Adenton, and all these people in there working with Rudolph Sonborn and a whole list of criminals. I don't know if you all know their names or anything, but and they also worked with mafia. Teddy Kullak, the second man in the Jewish Agency, the precursor to the first government of Israel, along with Ben Gurion, Menachem Begin, all these future prime ministers of Israel. They were working with the mob, with guys like Sammy Kay, Meyer Lansky, Bugsy Siegel, even briefly through the Flamingo Hotel that Hank Greenspun helped put the seed money for, which ended up being bought out by Mo Dalitz, and then eventually the Fertitta brothers, which used to run UFC.
That's right. Until very recently, yeah.
Yeah, very recently. It was almost bought by Shane McMahon, which would have been sweet.
Yeah, and the UFC was bought by Ari Emanuel, if I remember correctly, right? Basically, that's the talent agency. Yeah. Endeavor pretty much, I think, bought UFC. Is that correct?
But before Dana and the Fertitta brothers, Shane McMahon, Vince McMahon's son, was going to buy it.
Right.
And how awesome that
would have been amazing, actually.
It would have been great.
just for our purposes, just the drama of it. Pensive Cowboy says, sloppy job, Mossad. I am Metheos, gifted a 1-month subscription. Pensive Cowboy says, can we get Patrick Little on for Rosh Hashanah? Probably not, I'll be honest. I haven't heard from Mr. Little in almost
He called my
years.
Skype while we
Did
were
he?
talking. That's
Just
one
now?
of the people I hung up on, like
what?
minutes ago.
Dude, I haven't heard. He came on the show like twice in 2018 when I just was risking it all. And I haven't heard from him in a while. So I didn't know if
his appearance ruffled a lot of feathers.
Yeah, it ruffled a few feathers for sure. And he made 2 appearances actually. So he came on once by himself, and then he came on with Paul Nealon and Nick Fuentes and Mr. Medicare. That was an insane show, by the way. Holy shit. All right, I'm remembering some of it now.
I forgot about that show. That one was a wild one.
That was one of the crazier shows we've had, actually. The Real Fast Gordon, I read that. Pensive Cowboy, I read that. Let's see. The Real Fast Gordon says, neo-Nazi Chi-Com Bavarian bankers did 9/11. Chili Dog says, but is Israel still our greatest ally? Of course. T-Bear says, Zion Don 2020. Slay the Golems. Zweeble, says, Ryan, do you have a D-Live channel?
I do, but it doesn't. Their servers don't really work well in Asia.
Yeah, I heard the same thing from Black Pigeon Speaks that sometimes D-Live doesn't really even work in Japan. Yeah.
So I'm using brand new tube, and I would suggest that Black Pigeon Speaks do use that instead.
Why is that? So for the longest they worked fine, and then I remember maybe 6 months ago, a little bit longer, Black Pigeon Speaks just said it's just not working in Japan. Like the chat works, but the video just pretty much
the video
doesn't.
goes out like every minute or so.
Yeah,
I think just over here, I guess
because of the Chinese influence, or like I mean, we know
it's not worth it to them. There's no English speakers on this side of the planet. You'd have to go all the way to Australia to find.
To build,
Singapore,
to have
I guess would be the closest.
So you know what it probably is. The closest server is probably Australia. And so you guys
which is not close at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You guys are getting massive amounts of buffering.
Like east to west wise, they're below us, but they're that's like saying, well, America and Argentina, same thing or something.
Yeah. Let's see. Reiner says, or Rainier. God damn it, Rainier. I think Rainier. I think that's it actually. Rainier says, Awesome Dawson. There we go. Let's keep going. Winston Fujimori. By the way, we're about to
Austin
take...
Dawson Express was going to be our tag team in NWA when my brother and I were like 11.
We're about to take callers right after this. Winston Fujimori says, I called it. Twitch would ban Leafy this week. I didn't see you call it, but you were right if you did. CGI Seagull says, Ryan, have to ask, Frazzle Drip, real or fake?
I don't know what that is.
I don't either, actually. Skylar SC says, BPS says entropy works in Japan when DLive doesn't. Okay, you know what? That makes no sense because, well, I guess unless you're using the Twitch feed into entropy, because like we use entropy right now and it's just using the DLive feed. Is that what you're talking about, Kyler? Because that's insane if so, because
I think people just watch it on YouTube or whatever and they donate on entropy. So not everyone's hitting play. And also it's always like 200-to-1 ratio of the people watching on there versus ones on entropy. For me,
sure.
anyway.
Well, yeah, I mean, people are gonna only go to entropy usually if everything else is down. No offense to entropy, but they're just used to other platforms and stuff. Kyler SC says, strangely enough, Pensive Cowboy says many parallels between the Pollards and the Rosenbergs. Chili Dog says, what does the guest
And
think?
the Maxwells.
Chili Dog says, what does the guest think of the riots in BLM? I think that says it all. Go ahead. Do you
I mean, when I heard they're setting Portland on fire, I was like,
weren't too concerned about it.
it was like, you mean New York City and Detroit and all these like liberal shitholes are on fire?
Poor Portland. Oh,
And,
man. Let me get
poor Portland. Oh, I want to save them.
Let me get on a plane.
Yeah, oh man, they got orange skies now, and a bunch of weirdos are like burning down their own stuff and robbing Louis Vuitton, and we're like, oh, I have such deep sympathy for the police and Target. It's like, why would I care? But no, I mean, I don't like that they just shot him, man. That's insane. He had the wrong hat on, so they shot him. These people are terrorists, and you can yell Black Lives Matter and be like, shut up, you don't care about black people. Like what I see, like you see that the new African Black Panthers party. And they arrested people, and all of them were white. Half of them were gingers. It's like these are the most spoiled, rotten brat millennial losers, and they're just yelling Black Lives Matter because that lets you get away with it, or whatever. Very few of them are black, and the ones that are like racist black supremacist types that think that every ill in their life is because of their color, and not because they just made bad decisions and fucked up and do drugs and don't work and don't show up on time. And you can look at these people; they're all degenerate, disgusting, pathetic, in every way. They're ugly. They hate things that are successful. They hate anybody successful. They hate beauty. They hate strength. They hate hard work. And then they're going to label it white supremacist because that is the one thing that is the most allowable punching bag. Like if you want to go attack something, just yell Nazi and then you can do whatever you want, right? So under the guise of fighting for minority rights for police abuse or something, it's just a bunch of communists chimping out because they can't stand that Donald Trump is the president.
All right, let's take some callers.
He is everything they hate. 6'4" billionaire with a supermodel wife and 5.
And he brags about it too. That's what they really. And
yeah.
He's just such.
And he puts his name on buildings.
Yeah.
He's arrogant, and they can't stand it.
His apart, his condo's solid gold. Yeah, I can see that getting in there.
I'm like, why should you care? Good for him.
That's
whatever.
what I would do if I had a fucking couple billion. I'd probably have a solid gold condo. Why not?
I've met him twice.
Really?
The last time I saw him, this is why he's kind of cool, was at WrestleMania 20. He was in the front row. It was at Madison Square Garden. It's when Benoit got the title and Guerrero both got the belts. I don't know if y'all are wrestling fans or whatever.
Definitely, I watched that live. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah, I watched it at the arena.
Oh, okay. Well, you know what? I was at the last live WrestleMania with an audience, which was 2019. So.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
I was supposed
that might be
to
the last one ever with an audience.
I was supposed to be at this one because it was
Really?
going to be the Undertaker's
Tampa.
last match.
Yeah.
And I was bringing my son there,
Wow.
all the way from Japan. It was going to be in Tampa, right? And well, they ended up doing the AJ Styles movie style thing with Undertaker or whatever. But
yeah.
I was going to take my 11-year-old to WrestleMania, and ordered.
That's fucked up. Oh man, that makes me sad. Actually,
didn't get to go, and then the
God.
Undertaker retired, and I was like,
would've-
"Damn you, overreaction to COVID."
I would have committed so many crimes at age 11 to go to WrestleMania. There's almost no telling.
Oh, he was so excited about it.
man.
He's like, "I'm going to America, and I'm going to
Oh,
WrestleMania, and
my
I'm going to
God,
be the
are you kidding?
Undertaker."
Oh, you're
And
kidding.
the other thing is, like, because Kairi Sane and the Japanese wrestlers there, and like Asuka and stuff, we had like an in, because this Palestinian guy that's a fan was going to get us backstage passes and stuff, and I didn't tell my son that, but I guarantee you we could have talked to all the Japanese wrestlers and stuff, because the only ones there that speak Japanese, right? That would have been so awesome. And the whole thing got canceled because of the overreaction to the flu, so I didn't get to do it. But I did meet Trump at WrestleMania 20. He actually got booed at that. He did a little thing, but I think people were really booing the Brock Goldberg match because no one cared since they're both leaving. And so Trump had bad timing or whatever, but he just smiled and waved and whatever and ha ha ha. But he
That's
wasn't
the one
drinking.
where Stone Cold was the guest referee, and he got the biggest pops. I think he ended up Stone Cold stunning both of them, right? Correct.
Right, the biggest pop
That
was
was
from
awesome.
Austin,
That
and that was when the Undertaker made his return,
right.
because he had been gone for a while and he made his return. That's for May 20.
CGI
Good
Seagulls.
stuff. Cena did the F5 to the Big Show for the first time, and
That was pretty
all that,
impressive, man. CGI
Mhm.
Seagull says Chris Benoit was an inside job. Pensive Cowboy says WrestleMania, one struggle. HH brother. Let's see. BPS.
my girlfriend saw Benoit on the Friday before the murder on
Really?
Sunday.
No
Yeah.
way.
Yes. You want to hear this story? Y'all don't
Yes.
mind?
Yes.
Okay,
God,
so
yes.
She was coming back. She was a cave diver. Now she's a pathologist. But she was coming back from Florida or something, and she was in the Atlanta airport, and I made her watch wrestling, and she ended up liking it. And we always thought Chris Benoit was crazy. Always like, that guy is legitimately scary. I always said, like, of all these wrestlers, I don't want to piss off Benoit because he seems like a real crazy person. I guess I was right, but she met him in the airport and like got
His
so
nickname
flustered.
was the Crippler, by the way, for those who don't know
He
wrestling.
just seemed like
he
just
looked
seemed
like that type of person that would
The
actually
rabid
Yeah.
Wolverine.
Right. Like-
legit pissed, you know.
The nickname was the Crippler, and he looked like a guy who might actually cripple you, right?
It looked like
that's-
somebody
yeah.
to like pull your arm off.
right,
His neck was he had his neck and his head were the same time. you know.
right, yeah.
Anyway, she got all flustered. Was like, Chris Benoit, because we always made up stories that, well, he was a serial killer and stuff. Just like we just had this ongoing joke, like Benoit was like really like that. Wasn't funny when it happened, but she dropped all her stuff, and Nancy was with him, woman, and they helped her pick it up and gather it. And he was really nice, and he signed. She's like, I got to get your autograph from my boyfriend and stuff, and he signed a card. It's a yellow index card, Chris Benoit, but he wrote WWF. He didn't write WWE. So I don't know where his head was at. or
That was
what.
very strict back then. You would think that maybe people listening might think that was nothing, but they were really strict,
Right, by the
drilling
time
that
the
He
into
wasn't
their
Wrestlers
even
head.
in the
came in.
W.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
was never in the
So-
WWF, was he? It was WWE by the time he went over.
I think he had a small window where
right,
it was
just
WWF
barely,
when
though.
the Radicals came in, and then they
But I mean,
changed
he had
it.
been in the WWE far longer.
He was
than
the
he had ever been
champion,
in the
and
Well, I mean,
WWF.
to be fair, I mean, most people WWF. If you say that even now, people think wrestling, right? But you know,
But
he worked for them.
They don't do that. He
Right,
was just. I don't know
exactly.
if it was out of spite, like he always wrote that. I'd have to ask other people that got his autograph.
They
or
don't
whatever. Like,
do
he was
that
just like,
when
I don't
you're
like the name
a
change.
champion level type person in
Right.
WWE. Yeah, that's not.
He may have just forgotten because of all the chair shots or whatever. Because Animal from Hulk and Animal from Road Warriors said when they looked at his brain, it was like an 80-year-old man. Like he had
Yeah.
all that plaque and whatever it's from, the headbutts, the chair shots, or he had a very rough style before WWE. Anyway, he signed at WWF and he was very polite, and his wife was there and she was very nice. I was gonna say my girlfriend's name, but she didn't know Nancy. And I was like, oh yeah, she used to be in WCW and he was a woman. Da, 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 da. And so she got to meet them, and I had his autograph, and I kept that card with me in Virginia when she came back, because I had met Nikki Hilton because I had just gone to the Caymans, and I was like, guess who I met? Because I didn't really care, but it was something. And she's like, yeah, Chris Benoit. And I was like, oh, so envious. I was like, I should have gone with her. I could have met Chris Benoit. But 2 days later was the event, and his son his wife and himself, and it's just so tragic. But I do believe, I don't think he'll ever be in the Hall of Fame or anything, but I don't think they should expunge all his matches and stuff because clearly he wasn't himself. Like he had brain damage when he did that.
I heard
So-
they've started to bring some of his stuff back on the WWE network. I can't confirm
have-
that.
Like the way
Yeah.
we know more about concussions and all now, I think you'd have to like.
Yeah, he was sick. He was a sick person.
I think
He
he
had
was sick,
something
and
wrong.
obviously, I mean, I was a Chris Benoit fan. I'm not going to sit here in front.
He was one of the
one
best
of the greatest-
technical wrestlers
yeah.
in the game.
one of the greatest
I would-
wrestlers.
Let me
of all
ask
time.
you.
Yeah.
Top 5 technical wrestlers. Would you put Benoit on?
Yeah, definitely. Benoit, Bret Hart, Bryan Danielson. I don't know. I'd have Great Muta probably, or not Great Muta, but Mitsuharu Misawa.
Kurt Angle, maybe.
Yeah, Kurt Angle. Yeah, that's a pretty good that's 5 right there, right?
Yeah, that's a good list.
That's a pretty good list. Yeah, Misawa definitely needs to be in there though.
Mm-hmm.
I have to get the Japanese influence. I was trying to think of it wasn't Muta, it was Misawa who I was trying to think of.
Yeah, Great Muta was good though. not in a
Muta was
technical
awesome.
way, but
don't get me wrong, KJ Muta. Yeah,
prior to Asuka, the whole
Oh,
paint in the
dude.
face was Great Muta.
Muta
man.
when he came out in late '80s, Muta was just like unbelievable.
fighting with the 4 Horsemen.
Oh my God, are you kidding me? Yeah, that's that era. Oh man, you're gonna make me
I would
watch wrestling when I get up.
agree with your entire list. I'd add Ricky Steamboat in there too.
Okay, and I do. Yeah, definitely.
got
That's
it.
fair. You
Y'all
can
got it
substitute.
all wrong.
I see Kawada mentioned in the chat. That's fair too. But there, you can substitute a couple.
So it goes Bret Hart and then Goldberg, La Parka. Then you have Brian.
Goldberg was not a technical wrestler.
Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant.
Yes, La Parka.
Goldberg had fewer moves. Goldberg had fewer moves than Ultimate Warrior. Clothesline, power slam.
Yeah, that's who I was going to put in there. Ultimate Warrior. That's why Ultimate Warrior is lower on the list.
Yeah, the least technical wrestlers would have been like Ultimate Warrior, Goldberg.
Disco Inferno.
Disco Inferno. That made me think of Alex Wright and the
Great
little dancing
Khali.
gimmick that he used to have.
Elegante.
Oh my God. Oh, let's see.
The claw, the headbutt, and the choke slam. We're done.
We have to do a full wrestling show. Me and you talked about it before. I don't know if we'll do it all the time. We have to at least.
You got
fucking
my
do
boy
it.
Ian in on it. He's a wrestler he trained with Finn Balor.
I'm
and-
down. We
I-
talked about Finn Balor, aka Prince Devitt, the real rock and roller. Yeah, somebody was calling me out for that the other day.
Dude, I've been trolling Jim Cornette pretty hard because you know Cornette. He's
Good old corny.
Legendary
Jim
Hall of
Cornette.
Fame manager Jim Cornette. By the way, go ahead. Yes.
dude, the tennis racket. Yeah, he really loves Sprite. He has it every day. Like Sprite with ice is his thing. He actually used it to lose weight because he used to be on Pepsi. but Japan has like the premier Sprite, and I'm always sending videos of me drinking it in front of him. Yeah.
That's amazing.
All these like designer sprites
yeah.
and the flavors that he can't get and shit. By the way, we have about 950 live on D Live. I think we had 300 or 400 over on Killstream.
And explain 9/11, and I'm a wrestling fan, so don't
Exactly.
act like pro wrestling fans are all a bunch of anti-fan.
Wait, hang on. Best
can I-
technical wrestler is Owen Hart. That one move he did. Did you see that move?
Was it
Shut
pile
the fuck
driver
up,
to
Andy.
oh Jesus, dude! Oh come on! Ah.
I knew exactly what he was
You
talking
should have said the
about.
best high
Wrestling.
flyer.
Yeah.
Anytime
Owen-
wrestling is brought up,
Owen
he
actually
mentions
is
it.
would have been
Yeah, Owen actually.
up there.
Owen being put in that. I don't know if I'd say top 5, but if you know.
No, but he was
Top
good
10
all
though,
around.
He was
maybe.
good,
Yeah.
yeah.
it's up-
No,
it's up-
9/11 viewers on D Live.
Oh, Gotta keep it on
Yeah, I mean-
9/11. Is it still 9/11 there?
Yeah, for
Yeah.
like another 30 minutes. Yeah.
There you go, we
911
did it.
viewers.
Success.
Wow, we did it. I wish I had
19
a button to
years.
press. Worski, you're here. What do you think about 9/11 and Ryan Dawson being here? Or whoever wants to talk next, by the way. I don't care.
I want to
It's
ask.
very-
I want to
yeah,
ask
very
Brian Dawson
interesting.
something.
Okay,
A lot to think about. I don't know, man.
All right.
It just goes deep.
all right, let Bibble get
He's
in with
got
these
nothing
questions.
to say. All right, let me
Bibble,
ask you
that's
about this.
rude. Bibble.
I've been
Somewhat-
talking 9/11 for the past 3 days, so I'm good.
Let me ask you something else apart from 9/11.
All
What
right.
is your take on MK Ultra?
Who's asking me this? I'm
Bibble.
looking it up.
Bibble.
So yeah, the mind control. A lot of what's
How did
said
you
about
know
MK
that?
Ultra is very overblown. But they did do a lot of these experiments with, like Sidney Godfrey and these weirdos. It came out of actually started in the Federal Department for Dangerous Drugs and Narcotics. They changed the name. They took up the FBN. Doug Valentine has some great books on it called The Strength of the Pack and The Strength of the Wolf. And it goes over the early days of MK Ultra, where they believe the Soviets had a program for mind control, and they would try all these things with sleep deprivation and LSD and all these things, but a lot of it was just a bunch of perverts watching celebrities have sex on LSD, where they'd slip them LSD and they'd watch them from a secret room. And they thought about programs to make people go crazy, how to use LSD. They had a plot to even put it in Fidel Castro's coffee and try and make him go nuts during a speech. But they realized the main way to get a Manchurian candidate isn't through this complicated, convoluted way of mind control. It was just to pay him a lot of money. Like giving someone $100,000 is a lot more reliable than trying to brainwash somebody into doing a plot and not know about it.
So the things that you mentioned are the things that we have evidence of, right? Because a lot of this was published because it was done by actual scholars, like the stuff in Canada and all that kind of stuff. That's why we know so much about that. But there's
MK Naomi as well, right?
Yeah. There's arguably a lot more under the surface of the iceberg. What do you think about MK Often? Have you heard about that?
Yeah, all the MKs, often MK Naomi, the MK Ultra they did on children, basically, where they would be very good at getting a blank slate, but they wouldn't be good at building it back up again. And they realize it's a lot easier to just bribe somebody to be a hitman than it is to try and forcibly mind control people with all these complex programs,
seem a lot simpler.
Clockwork Orange and stuff. But you got to understand, like back in the 60s, psychology goes through all these fads, right? So their whole thing was like mind control, hypnotism, and by like the 80s, it was always early childhood trauma. Oh, this happened when I was young, therefore I'm a serial killer or whatever. In the 90s, it was all about the chemical imbalance. So it was all obsessed with serotonin and we're going to give you SSRIs and blah, blah, blah. And then the late 90s, it was bipolar disorder and all these things. And none of these had physical tests. And then it moved straight on to the generation ADHD and everybody's hyperactive and we need Adderall and Ritalin and blah, blah, blah. And like none of these things existed a decade before that. So each time they get on some trend, but in the 60s, there was a lot of woo. Like even in martial arts, they thought there was like touch of death and all this ridiculous shit. And it was because of Hollywood movies about it. Like, oh, you're getting sleepy and the vampires and stuff that would hypnotize people. And hypnosis is a real thing. It's not fake or anything, but it doesn't work like that. And LSD doesn't really do anything but scramble your brain. It doesn't give you any inside direction into, giving people orders in their sleep or anything like that. But they really thought you could brainwash somebody Clockwork Orange style by just showing them film clips and keeping them awake and giving them drugs and all. It just doesn't work. All it does is mess them up and, usually results in suicide. But what I found interesting is George White, that ran the MK Ultra program for the Federal Bureau of Narcotics, used to be driven to the airport to pick up Santos Traficante, who was working with Batista when they're getting the drugs out of Cuba to Florida. He ran the whole Florida mafia syndicate. And George White would pick him up at the airport with Jack Rubenstein, better known as Jack Ruby, the guy who shot the Harvey Oswald. They all knew each other.
That was a call back there. Go ahead, people.
What do you think? Okay, what do you think about the theory that that's how MK Ultra started, right? And they did it for like fucking 15 years, 20 years, arguably, and that at some point it morphed into Satanism and all this weird chaos magic that they like to do now that they're starting to unveil all their satanic rituals and stuff.
Well, there is a little bit of a bridge between MK Naomi and the Finders cult. Are you familiar with the Finders cult?
Yes.
So for those who don't, they were taking children, and I used to live near. It was in Madison, Virginia, where they had a lot of this going down. Kids in cages, and they thought, oh, you know what it is? We've been trying to brainwash adults and wipe their brain clean, and then try. What we really need to do is do it to children. And they're giving children low amounts of LSD and all this crazy stuff. And what they realized is, like, to do that, you need to get kids. So they had to dip into the dark zone of child trafficking, of which in the 70s and 80s there was plenty of. There was more kidnappings in the 70s than any other generation. It just something that happened. Kids on milk carts, right? And the human trafficking aspect, they get a lot of Mexicans and things that were just smuggled in, would disappear, and the premier kings of child trafficking, who are already established, were what we now know as your international pedophile rings. Even prior to Jeffrey Epstein, there were institutions like that. You wouldn't believe, well, you might believe, but people wouldn't have believed until Epstein just how big and organized human trafficking in children has been for the longest time.
It still is.
And sick things, and still is now.
Yeah.
There really wasn't a way to go after it. It got worse after the internet because it was so easy to lure people in and find, customers for child sex. And they're trying to normalize it, I swear. It's not just Netflix. Like, there's a law in California trying to reduce penalties on having sex with
Senator Weiner introduced that. Yeah.
Isn't it funny? Anthony Weiner caught showing his wiener on the to 15.
Yeah.
It's not him, but the guy has the same name, literally.
Same name, yeah.
T-Bird, it might as well be him.
Competition, Ralph.
I got it. Yeah. T-Bird.
Ralph didn't do it to little kids, though. Somebody stole it. Somebody leaked it. He didn't.
T-Bird says, looking good tonight, Ralph. Slick hair and shirt. Golden Donut says, left turn. Thoughts on dating women in modern age? What are your thoughts on dating women in the modern age?
I don't have to worry about it because I'm married.
But most
I would
of
say
them are whores.
Well, that doesn't stop everybody. I mean, I'm not sure.
Well, I married a supermodel, and I've got my third kid on the way, so I'm pretty good. I would come to East Asia if you're looking for good women, because the American ones are ruined.
Oh yeah,
a lot of whores, man. A lot of whores. Like the internet. One thing the internet did for girls is like they can just trade up for money so easy.
Yeah, I wasn't even joking when I said that. We discuss this on my show all the time. Like looking at these OnlyFans news, and there's like I think a teacher out of Texas, she was posting about this, that it's fucked up because all the young girls in high school, or she's a counselor rather. She goes, I have a really big problem with this generation because all the girls now, they want to be like, their dreams are to be an OnlyFans model and be rich on OnlyFans. So these girls are growing up like wanting to be whores, and because this is accepted in society and they're making money, everyone has to be, or you're slut shaming. Fuck it, who cares? I'll slut shame. I don't give a fuck. You're gonna be unhappy in your life in the future. They don't realize what they're doing to themselves. But yeah, like OnlyFans, like these girls are prepping their bodies for the minute they're 18 to be on OnlyFans and do that stuff, and it's disgusting. It's despicable.
There was a Tinder analysis that went over some women pretended to be men to see what it would be like to be a man on Tinder, and they were good looking or whatever. It's all subjective, but the results were like most of the girls, they, other than the ones like over 35 and like a 5 or a 4 and under, just wouldn't talk to them. Like they could not get a date or whatever, because when they even got someone to respond to like match or whatever, and then I guess you messaged them, they wouldn't get messaged back. These people just do it, be like, oh yeah, I just on here to see how many guys will like me. It makes me feel better about myself.
Validation. That's all they're there for.
But it's like the only reason a girl would go on a dating app is for money, because if you're a girl, you don't have to go on a dating app. All you have to do is go outside and pick someone. Yeah, like you go to any bar or anywhere, if you're good looking,
library, mall,
one of them will say yes, right? So the only ones that are on there are looking for sugar daddies and stuff, which makes the guys are on a dating app because they actually want a date. Otherwise,
or to bang.
Yeah, just bang a whore, I guess. But
yeah.
I'm not really no point using them was the point of it. But there's a lot of girls I know in Los Angeles and stuff that are using these websites. I forget the names of them and all, but they were telling me about it. They're like, I can just have like 2 or 3 sugar daddies that I bang occasionally, and I don't have to have a job. So, and then they have a boyfriend and everything, they just don't tell them about it. But they're on these sites.
Oh my god!
This is like they're on these sites where they bang some old rich guys or whatever, and they're just like, he's not so bad looking, whatever. And they do it for the money because they're getting like thousands of dollars just to have sex. And here's Patrick Little, by the way. You want to bring him in?
Bring him in. Why not? I mean, at this point.
Does that work through Skype? He'd have to be on the Zoom.
Oh, so if you send him that link,
can we send the link? Yeah,
the link. Yeah.
If you send him that link, he could come in.
Send the link to my Skype, and I'll cut and paste it.
Let's see. I can send it to your email. I don't know if I have you on Skype or not. I think I'm. Yeah, actually, I think I do. Let me fire up Skype. I had to use it this morning. When I was on InfoWars. I'll bring in a caller while I do that. CJ,
Would you real fast? I want to add one thing to what Ryan was saying.
Sure.
So I'm dating someone now. It's going amazing. She's based as fuck. It's awesome. But a year ago, when I was like, I had made it back from the States and I was sort of, rebuilding my life after all the drama, I was on Tinder just to like, see what's going on, maybe head on a date or two. There were girls, I'm not even joking, in their description would be, if you don't make a lot of money, don't message me. I'm like, oh my God. Or I saw one girl, if you don't have a truck, then you're not a man. I'm like, what the fuck, man? It's grimy out there. I deleted all the apps and stuff. I met my girlfriend some other way. So not through an app. Because those apps, man, yeah, it's really, and they're there for validation. That's all it is. They're seeing, I'm feeling depressed. Oh, okay, guys think I'm hot and I can make money. All right, cool. And they're just riding the cock fucking carousel. It's like they're gonna head on a date, and when they,
can you blame them? Like, what would you do if you could just make money having sex?
It's true. I mean, yeah, fair enough. I'm not a girl. Who knows? If I was a girl, I could show my tits and make $100,000 a month. Like some of these chicks, who knows where I'd be? Thank God. I mean,
like, why go to school if you have a nice pair of boobies?
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair point.
That's the world they live in, right?
But are these people truly happy? That's the one thing I really want to. I wish I could
probably
explore their mind.
They probably wouldn't be anyway if they had a job. So.
It's true. Yeah.
All right,
where's the way it goes?
Yeah, I sent you the link. Now, Mr. Little, advise him a little bit that we're on D Live. I know we just a little keep it in. We haven't had him on the program in a while since we had a little more freedom back in the day when he was on the program. Maybe just a little gentle advisement there is all. Okay, now let's bring in a caller. Pepto-Bismol's been on my ass actually to bring him in. He said he's been holding this red pill for like 2 hours almost. Go ahead, like an hour and a half. Go ahead, Pepto-Bismol.
Hello. Okay. So one of the things that I want to really highlight, because this is one of the things that people always say, oh, why would America attack themselves?
It was Carol Baskin.
We didn't know about it. If it's Project Northwood, they've had this thing since 70-something that they've had plans to attack ourselves. We know from the Gulf of Tonkin incident. We know from the sinking of the Lusitania. They do this every time. It's the same playbook. And while the event was happening, it wasn't just a drill that was going on. It was a huge war game operation with the entire Air Force. And when they found out that it was a real operation, yeah, exactly. They were saying that, is this real or is this the exercise?
Yeah. Paul Mitzi, the founder, the author of the Operation Northwood documents that suggested blowing up an American plane, blaming it on the Cubans and so on, is the founder of the Aspen Institute, where Louis Leibowitz and Judith Miller were our fellows.
There you go.
And Richard Pearl. Mm-hmm.
So
and their poems from jail, where they talk about how their roots connect between Miller and Libby. The aspen tree has roots that connect to other aspen trees, and they were alluding to the Aspen Institute. That's what they were saying.
Oh, that's an occult tidbit right there. That's intentional. So once they found out that the war games were not just games anymore, they were getting phantom reports of multiple hijackings all over the place, sending them up as far as Canada to do anything in their power to divert people from intercepting those planes, because they were flying for at least an hour, if not longer, before they actually did their strikes, which can prove that then there is an intentional government syndicate that is working with the Israelis and whoever else is behind this. But one of the things that people never talk about is with Building 7, Building 7 actually has something very important to do with the Oklahoma City bombing. When that bombing happened, that place had the records for the ATF, for the Social Security Administration, the Secret Service, the DEA. And after that bombing happened, which they found out later, local news reports that they only talked about once, that there was actually bombs inside the building. How could you have blown it up with the truck if there's bombs in the building? But anyways, once that bombing happened, there was a huge effort to move all of the records somewhere safe, and that made other agencies want to move them too, which all were moved to the Building 7 that housed not just all the Social Security, the Secret Service, all that. It had a clandestine CIA office. It had
Security
American
Exchange
Express.
Commission
It
was
had
in there.
how much insurance commissions there was. So all of
I
right,
know
caller,
where you're going
caller,
with this.
caller,
Is they
yeah.
blow up the records, but I just got to tell you, the records are digital. You can't just blow them up. So that's not why that
All
was
right,
targeted.
caller, thank you so much. Really quick, I'll give you.
it's a way to get rid of physical evidence. If it's digital, you can just say, "Oh, we erased it." Like, look what they did with NASA.
All right.
We just deleted our stuff. We just lost it.
Thank you, Pepto.
Yeah,
I
you
appreciate
got
you,
it.
man.
Depends on me.
I see Pat Little on
I
that.
do too. That's why I was not so gently pushing Pepto out. Patrick Little, welcome back to the Killstream. It's been over 2 years since you've been on this program, sir. How have you been?
Pretty good.
All right. Well, what are you working on right now? By the way, we mentioned you came up randomly in a super chat, and Ryan, I guess, happened to be talking to you, conversing with you on Skype.
I saw him call on Skype. I said I can bring him in right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've been mostly reviewing Michael Collins Piper and Ryan Dawson materials over the last few years, or well, year. And I've made a Wikipedia using the open source media wiki. And yeah, I've just been a bookworm and a documentary worm. I've transcribed a lot of Ryan Dawson stuff, and I kind of am trying to take his stuff so it's not in a watch a 5-hour video format for people to be able to enter in whatever doorway into the whole Israel being behind 9/11 and the John F. Kennedy assassination, kind of just trying to give people more entry points. So I don't know if you've ever been on Wikipedia and you were looking up steam locomotives, and then before you know it, you're looking at diesel engines for diesel
Sure.
diesel locomotives.
Yes,
So
endless
you're kind
links.
of just you're kind of able just to jump around and click on the blue word. Ryan always says turn the who's blue. So in the picture, so the hyperlinks are blue. Follow the blue, and the blue
Follow the
leads down-
blue.
Now,
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say. So I guess I'm trying to think. Maybe it was last year I saw you. It wasn't even last year. Maybe it was earlier this year. I don't remember. But I know you were well known. Of course, you came on this show a couple times. You did an interview with us, and you came on during the big shit show that we had during that summer as well.
Hey, he had a prophetic sign on a blimp that predicted the Epstein affair.
Yeah, and I guess what I was getting into, like as Ryan mentioned there, you're well known for your public activism. I guess I don't want to say stunts, but attention getting events there, and I haven't seen you do those in a lot. Was that a conscious decision to change the style of your activism?
Oh, I just realized my camera was off, but yeah, I got put in the hospital once, got attacked by Antifa a few times, had, police officers pretty much tell me that I couldn't press charges because I criticized Jews without coming out and saying it. So I've been through all sorts of censorship. So even if I wanted to still go out there and fly the whole Epstein blimp or the Maxwell blimp, whatever I would rebrand it as now, there's no way for me to get my message out. I can't even do fundraisers for charity. I raised almost $1,000 for political prisoners, the Ram guys in California, where the judge threw it out, and then the FBI is now trying to get it appealed through some Soros tier DAs in California, and they confiscated the $750. I was bankrupt, but I hadn't missed a payment yet, so I maintaining the boat and an apartment in the Bay Area, I was like $86,000 in debt this time last year. So I had no way to continue, and my speech was slurred from getting rammed into from behind by a car doing 30-something over the speed limit, going down to hold a sign that said Jews did this by the Mexican border as the caravans were crossing in November of 2018. And I was going to go up to the Jewish lawyers that were handing out the what to say to Border Patrol to find the loophole into the country to overstay, their immigration court hearings. And so, yeah, my speech was slurred. I was almost $100,000 in debt from trying to maintain a normal lifestyle and not having an income. So, yeah, it was a no-win situation with continuing that way. And also, I was starting to let the financial stress get to me. So a few of the last streams I went on in the summer of 2018, fall of 2018, I was pretty much just, exhausted from doing my touring. And I had a very short fuse. And so people would counter signal me and I would not approach it in a very level-headed manner. And so I figured while I was getting debts paid off, I would study materials, and that's what I've been up to. And I've got quite the media wiki, which is the open source software on a lamp stack that Wikipedia uses. And so I wish I had this when I was out doing that activism, because now I can say, instead of me saying, hey, look at this tablet while I Google the information for you, I can say, go to my website and put in a keyword. So, yeah, that's
Okay.
long.
Well, I'm glad you said that because, like I said, it's been over 2 years since you've been on. I know you didn't just go away. You've been around a little bit. I've heard, some stuff here or there. But for the Killstream audience who haven't heard from you in a while, I wanted to get that out there.
Now, we've been in communication, but I just never
Sure.
said anything because I figure it's all Patrick's business, so I don't say nothing. But people like, see, all right? And I'm like, yeah.
I've definitely had him brought up on this show, and people asked me before, too. So, yeah, I'm glad.
I've been financially deplatformed and all that crap as well. Like, probably all of us have. I think it's happened. All of us have been censored, and they've gone after payment processors. And
I'm going to go turn off my fan real quick.
Sure.
I'm getting a hurricane wind in my face. 1 second.
Sure, go ahead.
Oh, great.
Okay, let me read some of these. T-Bird, I read that one. Flatland Chicken Rancher gifted a subscription. Very kind of you. Vote little, win big. Big Dick Rick Savage. I might have to wait until he gets back and reread that one too. Jalasso says, wait, let me see. Is he back yet? Okay, we'll see. Tell me when he's back, Gator. Let me look over an entropy.
I will.
As well. Life in Hell says, a little off topic.
He's back, by the way.
Okay, I'll read those two again. Vote little, win big, says Big Dick Rick Savage. Jalasso says, Patrick Little, he makes fun of your earbuds, is what he does there. Flatland Chicken Rancher says, Discord link. We threw it out earlier. We do have callers, believe it or not. We took one. We'll try to get to some more of those here in a moment.
Sure.
Yeah, come on. Life in Hell
Discord
says,
link out again.
well, I didn't know Patrick Little was just going to drop by.
No,
during the
I
show.
know, for sure. This is interesting. It's cool.
Life in Hell says, a little off topic, but has Ryan read The Manson File by Nicholas Schreck? And what does he
Can we
think
get like Vosh and Destiny and some of them in here too?
man. Destiny might be coming on next Friday. We'll see.
Did you hear
so.
Destiny lost his
actually,
partnership?
Actually, that's on the agenda if we get to it. And Discord, he lost his Discord
I think
partnership.
he was defending Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yeah, he was. He
Yes,
lost. He lost.
That's why I got in trouble.
I just want to say this: he lost his Discord partnership
No?
officially, but
I'll say why.
It's not official that he lost the Twitch partnership just yet.
Yeah.
He said in an email or like a text or whatever that they had contacted him saying they were going to take it away, but I don't think they've officially taken it away.
I think they have. Yeah.
As of now, within the last hour, I mean, maybe they have. Hold on, let me.
Twitch's legal team is emailing me telling me they're revoking my Twitch partnership. But the reason was he was defending Kyle Rittenhouse, but the reason was when all those Abosh people and liberals and all that stuff were going after him, he wrote this. He wrote, okay, sorry, I apologize for my previous takes. I support cops being killed and cities being burned down. My bad. As a facetious
By the way,
a rebuttal. And then they were like, you're promoting violence. He's obviously kidding. He was against that. That was the whole point.
By the way, I'm looking at his channel. He has the verified check as of now.
Oh yeah.
But what Worski said is absolutely true, and that's the same information that I saw. And it was him. I guess he was in a Discord or something, and he said that they had contacted him and said they were going to take away the verified partnership. That's what Twitch told him. But
The
they
legal
haven't.
team. I suppose
Right,
back
right,
and forth,
right. So
I was
maybe
kicked
there's
off
been
Twitch in like 24 hours.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I would.
There's no point in even trying Twitch.
Like, why did I even bother with
If you
that?
say the word Jew, they ban you. By the
You're
way,
done
on
on
Twitch.
Switch.
Yeah.
K-Hole says
I-
good. Oh, go ahead, Bibble.
No, I was just gonna say. I just want to say I'm glad that Patrick's doing well. He looks good. Last time we had him on, he was a little high strung. I remember that. I remember you being on the show last time.
He
You
was
were
a little
bit
amped up.
on
I have to say,
edge.
yeah. He was hyped.
he was a little on
hyped.
edge. Yeah, but he looks good. He looks calm now. I hope we can have him on again sometime. I really do.
I agree with that. All right, let's keep going here. A couple super chats. K-Hole says, good to hear P. Little. Cheers from Sacramento. D's Joker says, how's the blimp, Patrick? If you want to answer that, you can. Drippy George says, Ryan, good call on Antifa guys, murder/suicide. Shouting at Cloud says, Patrick Little on again sometime? Yeah, I'll be down for that for
Yes.
sure.
Absolutely.
Yes, I mainly say that because I got to go to bed soon. and
You
I
want to
some
talk
questions?
to me?
I want to talk to him, but I got to go to bed.
Lord Aragon 2019 says, hey, all. Hello, Lord. God damn it. I always fuck their name up. Excuse my French there. Lord Aragorn 2019. Thank you. Shouting at Cloud says, Whitney Webb is back and giving interviews. I talked to Miss Webb earlier today, and if we have to record it earlier in the day, we're going to. So we might have a recorded interview for the Killstream, but we're trying to make it happen. And I actually called in people that I know that know her as well to say, hey, let's do it too. To give her
Just listen to mine and so she can repeat it.
Oh well, yeah. Nobody else has ever
Is
talked
she-
to this
I would
woman,
do-
Ryan. What are you talking
the
about? This is a Killstream exclusive. What are you saying? You have to hear it here. Go ahead.
Is she the one?
I
that
would say I
pressed
did
her?
not predict the death of the Antifa guy. I said he was going to kill himself, and then he kind of committed suicide by a cop, so I'd count that at like maybe half
Yeah, he
right.
did kill
By the way, Cody Wilson was mentioned in chat. I absolutely personally reached out to Cody Wilson yesterday, so I don't know if that'll bear fruit or not. Cody Wilson was on this show like 2 weeks before they arrested him down in Texas, the 3D printing gun guy, and he was one of the best guests we've ever had on the show, actually. So I messaged him personally. I don't know if he'll come on the show. He did do an interview or two that I saw, so we'll see. Hopefully so.
And real fast, after Killstream on Twisted Mind with Andy and Kyler, we got Mark Collette. Ralph, you're
Yes.
swinging by, right?
I'm going to come by
And
for a
Black-
bit for sure, yeah.
Yeah, and Black Pigeon Speaks. Fucking solid show, dude.
You
Very
gotta,
solid. Very
he
solid.
tried to get hold of me the other day. He was in my stream, whatever. Black Pigeon Speaks. He should get on brand new tube since D-Live doesn't work for us in Japan.
Yeah, I'm going to give you
Yeah.
your email, too, after the show. If that's cool.
Actually,
Yeah, tell him,
yeah,
yeah,
I'll
just
send-
do that.
Yeah.
and
I don't
for
know what he
him-
wanted. I didn't even know he knew me, but
Well,
whatever.
for him to watch the show, because he watches my show, he watches through Entropy, and apparently the Entropy like runs perfectly smooth on in Japan.
Mhm.
So Japan, if you're having trouble watching D Live, you can use the Entropy link to watch the show via there. So yeah.
All right, let's see. Big Dick Rick Savage says, "Has Pat ever heard the Mr. Bond song about him?"
He just stepped out of the chair.
Okay. I didn't see. See, I can only see like the main thing here, which whoever's talking basically, or who was the last to talk. I'm gonna bring in some callers. We'll try to get another question or two to Pat, who wasn't even scheduled to come on. This is a bonanza of a show here. All right, let's
A
take
9/11 to never
no,
forget.
Exactly. We will never forget this 9/11.
He's back if you want to ask him.
Oh, okay. Before Aaron, hold that 1 second, Aaron. Big Dick
Sure.
Rick Savage says, "Has Pat ever heard the Mr. Bond song about him?"
Yes, I have, and well, I was actually hoping to talk about this at some point. A few refrains into the song, or a few minutes in, he starts talking about Anders Breivik, and I'm going to defer to Ryan Dawson here because
I'm gonna disavow anything that he did. By the way, I just want to put that. I just want to say that as strongly as possible for anybody listening.
Now, just a moment, because on the campaign trail, I had mentioned Anders Breivik as a cautionary tale of being friends with JIDF trolls on Facebook. Now, this was before I was aware of the JQ,
Pam got
and Yeah, Pam Geller and counter jihad and all that stuff. And what they do is they recruit people. Now, if you remember some of the stuff from Dawson here, Breivik had some very curious bank transactions coming from right near Epstein Island, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yep.
And so I did know Anders Breivik on Facebook, not in person. We never met.
Oh yeah,
He
that's
told-
right.
he-
I forgot about this angle. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
But yeah, we talked about this I think on the show once. Go ahead. Yeah.
So Anders Breivik was a big fan. I started talking about displacement of native populations and it being something universal. Populations having rights universally, rights against mass replacement, mass migration, what I call minoritization. And I was talking about, I thought I was the first one to discover racial realism. I literally, with all normie inputs, put together that there's such a thing as an endangered species type of thing being applied to humanity or groups of humanity, that, you know, cultures have finite numbers of people, and when the people are gone, the culture is gone. And so I pretty much, without knowing that it was the term being tossed around, white genocide, came up with something in 2006 or 7. And Breivik got a hold of it, and I was posting to Pam Geller's wall because I thought, you know, the outpost of Western democracy in the Middle East, my fellow white people over there in Israel, I figured, you know, they were facing a population replacement. I thought it was the other way around. I thought that Arabs were trying to take their land. I was a Fox News watcher and all that. And so Breivik, he sent me, you know, fan messages. He said he really liked my writings. I got into a debate with Antifa on a United Against Fascism, some Facebook page, and I was debating quite a few people at a time. They took issue with me using the word indigenous to describe Europeans in Europe. And so he kept on telling me via message that he was writing something that I would read someday. And I thought, oh, very well. Okay. You know, and we were kind of doing the Viktor Orban nationalism type thing, the, you know, Deutschland schafft sich ab. I'm fluent in German. I was also talking with some German nationalists, and, you know, kind of, I guess it's what evolved into the AFD. And so I was about to leave for boot camp. I deleted my Facebook, and I was politically inactive for like almost a year before entering boot camp. And I was in the library of the nearby university where I used to go read the newspapers for free. And I saw who I had thought's name was Anders Bering on the front page. And so he was going by his first and his middle name on Facebook. But it was actually Anders Bering Breivik. And so I didn't know until this last year, but it looks like he was developed into an asset of the Mossad. You know, Ryan could go into the weapons training in Eastern Europe, him figuring out how to build these imperfection-free ammonia bombs or whatever the hell he built with fertilizer.
I talked about it on Red Ice last month.
Yeah, I haven't had time to watch that again, but so you know, I've caught some flack from some people that are in the nationalist community and people in patriotic communities and people that are against mass immigration for saying that I saw all the trademarks of Mossad asset development all over Brendan Tarrant from his 2 weeks in the area of Israel. From basically his manifesto looked like the, you know, without advocating violence, you know, the type of stuff that counter jihad
Patrick, the two of us on a stream is even making Ralph look worried.
Honestly,
sorry about that.
no, it's okay. It's okay.
we go after the most taboo things.
It's okay. But yeah, you know.
Well, what I'm saying is, if you study Ryan Dawson's material, Michael Collins Piper's material, and if you study Mossad infiltration of dissident groups in the Middle East, they will find anyone that's unhappy about anything, and instead of them achieving the ends that would, you know, help their religious sect or their ethnic group or their group of nomads,
right,
or being Bedouins or even you know, Kurds or whatever, and what they do is they co-opt it and they get you to direct the force against Israel's enemies, and you become what Ryan refers to in The Empire Unmasked as the distancing factor or the plausible deniability. And so what Israel needs, what these very powerful Jews who control our media in partnership with some Shabbos Goyim, What they need is white people committing what seems to be senseless violence. And I would say when you're achieving the goals of Israel or the billionaire Jews' goals.
We got to remember that Andre Baron Breivik shot up children at a pro-Palestine rally on an island.
Yep.
And he tried to blow up the oil ministries the day after they decided to withhold it from Israel. And he also had $100,000 just pop in his bank account out of nowhere through some mysterious bank in the Caribbean, Southern County International. And guess who set that up?
Yeah,
Jeffrey
and so
Epstein.
there were random gifts that occurred to me when I was trying to become kind of like a journalist that was pro Tea Party and stuff, pro counter jihad, Garrett Wilders type. In like 2008 or 9, I actually became acquainted with one of the top JIDF hackers, and I wasn't knowing that what Jews or Israel were about, and I don't mean all Jews, I mean the Jews that run things.
Jewish supremacists.
Yeah, and Mr. Applebaum or Appletree was able to duplicate the source code for Facebook, which I'm sure Zuckerberg just gave him through Unit 8200 or whatever, and so there we were at a URL that appeared to be Facebook's until you looked at the certificate, and we were chatting on Facebook Messenger, but it wasn't on Facebook. He was able to completely spoof Facebook and the Facebook messaging app and just saying, look at what we can do. And I said, oh, that's cool. And so like a week or two later, Ahmadinejad was at the UN speaking in New York. He was giving a conference at a nearby lobby in a hotel or a conference room. He rented something like that. And so I got a random tip, and I got to be, this is like the type of thing that happens with Nick Fuentes when he's nice to Laura Loomer. He gets to break.
Now,
news
wait
that
a
people
minute.
like.
Hold on. I know. By the way, Fuentes fans, I've seen some Fuentes people tweeting at me and stuff like that. Yeah. And again, this guest is here on his own. And so if you call somebody out, of course, they're welcome to call him. I just want to put that out there. So
ask about the Arizona pool parties.
Let's try to keep it focused if we can.
Okay, so the point I'm making is I was friendly to Israel, thinking that they were friendly to Western nations, which is definitely the antithesis of the truth. Mm-hmm. And lo and behold, I get breaking news tips, and I get to be the face of breaking news, for the group of counter jihadists. And it elevated me. I was invited to join the Republican Executive Committee for Duval County. And a whole bunch of other stuff. I got to meet Rick Scott when he was running to be governor. I got to meet Marco Rubio like 5 times. I got put in the front seat of the Marco Rubio when he wasn't a senator yet auditorium at the University of Florida. And of course, I was an evangelical Christian at the time. I was learning Hebrew and had plans to learn Greek. That's how I was speaking Hebrew to the Jew in front of Twitter when they were holding the signs next to me. Basically, you scratch Israel's back, and hopefully they get you on camera raping a kid so they can make you a senator. But if they don't got something like that, they let you they let you meet all the top goyim. And I met Rick Scott, I met Marco Rubio repeatedly, and they were very nice to me, and I was a nobody. And stuff like that happened. And if I had been someone as disaffected as Anders Breivik, or if I had had a violent predisposition, which I don't know if you've seen my videos, I get attacked, I don't attack. Maybe they would have talked me into sitting in front of a shiny new Ryder truck, or, hey, here, can you sit in this Ryder truck for the security footage that no one's ever going to see unless, it's the edited tape, and you refer to Ryan Dawson on the Oklahoma City stuff. The biggest thing I have learned that I wish I had known going into this, and
his name is Andre too.
Ryan told me, and he doesn't recall telling me this when I mentioned it this summer to him. He had told me in, I believe it was June of 2018 or May of 2018, he said to nuke my campaign server. I'm not sure if it was him, maybe it was one of the people around him, but someone told me, I'm pretty sure it was Ryan Dawson. He said, nuke your campaign server. Because I had people in there trying to get me to say pro Dylan Roof stuff. I had people in there trying to get me to, after the election was over, trying to get me to praise this, what looks like a Mossad developed asset to me, guy in New Zealand. And so I've been in touch with the fringes of this Mossad network online. And if they had deemed me a proper Ryder truck occupant, I'm sure they would have steered me in that direction. But I was told by the Republican Executive Committee to join the military. I chose the Marine Corps. They were pushing for Army. And to pursue politics as a counter-jihadist candidate after that. Other than that, that's the carrot. Now there's a stick now that I'm J-woke. For example, when I was living down in Boise, I had a random guy approach me wearing a white Power Wheel shirt, and then he contacted me through my number that had been doxed, saying, "Hey, I have a lower receiver I made. Can you modify the can you modify the slide for it?" You know, pretty much. I'm pretty sure that's some sort of ATF entrapment or something like that. I've been out for walks where just what looked like probably a very high-priced escort asked me to help her with her car when there's nothing wrong with it, and what can I do to repay you? I'm like, your car started on the first try. Why are you trying to thank me? You know, so I don't mean to get into the things where you can sound like you're overthinking things, but I've seen both
That's
the carrot
okay.
and the Zog.
We gotta
When
get,
you're talking about disheveled goy getting target is something bringing it back to 9/11.
Oh.
Ziad Al-Jarrah.
Bring it back to the safe topic of 9/11.
Well,
Please,
it's-
God.
It is 9/11 now. I'm talking about 9/11. So Ziad Al-Jarrah was the pilot of Flight 93, and they find his passport there in Shanksville and everything. However, two of his first cousins, Youssef Al-Jarrah and Ali Al-Jarrah, were busted in 2002 as Israeli spies in Lebanon. And so the fact that you have not just a 9/11 hijacker, a 9/11 hijacker pilot with family in the Israeli intelligence agency that were spying on Hezbollah has to be a red flag. What are the chances that not just Israelis, but Israeli intelligence operatives had a cousin in Al-Qaeda? And none of the airphone calls mention 4 people on Flight 93. They all say 3. And if you look at the transcript, which was released in the Moussaoui trial about the takedown of Flight 93, even the other hijackers do not refer to the person flying the plane as Ziad Al-Jarrah. They're talking about Al-Ghamhi. And so, the hijackers would know who's flying the plane. And so Al-Jarrah, at minimal, was not the pilot and probably was never even on the plane.
All right, let's see. Aaron Shadows, you're still here, dude. There's no way we're gonna get to these callers, by the way. But you're lucky that you got in. Go ahead.
I'm gonna grab some water.
Yeah.
I need something a little bit stronger than water right now. But go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
This show's amazing.
Yeah, I'll be quick. I just want to remind people. I mean, this might be a bit of a spicy take, but I think 9/11 did give us one gem. So I don't know if everybody remembers, but I think the Thursday or the Friday afterwards, I don't remember which one. WWE still had SmackDown on, and apparently it was like the first mass gathering in the entire country.
That's true.
And
Yeah.
then there were like a bunch of
Thursday.
the wrestlers gave their their little tributes talking about the event. And then Stephanie McMahon comes on and says that, you know what? My family endured a lot during our steroid trial, and now America will endure plenty on 9/11 or some shit like that.
I remember that. Yeah, it was very toned down. But they were the first, because everybody was afraid to do everything. Like, people don't realize
That's
how
pretty much disappeared from history, by the way, Bibble, that episode.
big.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, how big that was, because
She was
all the
pretty
mass
young.
gatherings, all the fucking football, everything was like canceled. They canceled
Yeah.
everything because they thought they were
And
going to do
Vince was
something
like,
else.
show must go
The thing
on.
is,
That's, of course he
the
did.
day before SmackDown on that Wednesday, another flight was grounded from an attempted hijacking. 10 people got arrested. 9 of them were released.
If I had the transcript, I can't release the Empire Unmasked transcript. I went through this with such autistic levels of detail. If you go to memoryhole.info and just type in transcript, war is always by deception, everything that Ryan Dawson is talking about here, the name is spelling correct and all that, unless there are triple exclamation points in front of it, meaning I'm not sure how to spell it. All of this, you can just go to memoryhole.info and search all the contents of the Empire Unmasked, including all of the articles referenced, the PNAC papers, and
It's all
that.
documented. Everything I'm saying. How many people know that a fifth plane, they attempted to hijack another plane? I think it was 233 or whatever flight, never got off the ground. And odd thing is the would-be pilot hijacker had a fake ID of another pilot, yet was also a pilot himself. So he knew how to pilot the plane, but he had an ID of a different person, meaning they're trying to push the paper trail in another direction, right? But 9 of the 10 got released.
And
So
the
that
media
means that
didn't
the
cover
handlers went the wrong way, It was in the little local media once, and I think ABC or something. That was it. And that was gone in memory hold. And there was another flight that was a crop duster that was rammed into Bank of America in Florida. That seemed to be some kid just stole the crop duster. It did almost no damage. He basically killed himself, wrecked the plane, and broke a couple windows. But people were frightened to gather, and I guess Vince McMahon was like, "Whatever, we're doing SmackDown."
Well, I mean, Owen Hart died during the middle of a fucking show, and they kept going on with it. So
May 23rd, no way out.
Yeah. All right. Let's see here. Let me see. I think. Let me see if we have. Let's take.
Technically, it was the Blue Blazer.
Let's take at least one more caller. Let's see. Sedan, you're the last caller. Go ahead.
Oh, thanks for bringing me in for the 9/11 Bozana stream or whatever. This is fucking nuts. Ryan, you were talking about the what do you call it? The Iraq War or whatever, and the different motivations for getting into that. I was told by somebody who was in the military that the reason why we never found any weapons of mass destruction is because they all had serial numbers that pointed back to the U.S. Does any of that sound accurate, or is it all bullshit?
No, they didn't have him. And if they did, they would have used them. Like, Saddam's about to die. Do you think he's going to not use his best weapon when he's being invaded? They tried to have a last stand at the Baghdad airport, and they had a Moab dropped on him. He didn't have any WMDs. It was a lie. And they even tried to say, oh, he moved him to Syria. And guess who wrote that? Judith Miller. And her sources were Richard Pearl, Paul Wolfowitz, and Israeli security. No bias there whatsoever. There's no way, if you have WMDs and you're about to be attacked, that you're going to move them to another country. And there's no way in hell the other country is going to accept them when they're seeing you get invaded over that, and they're going to take them and hold them for you or whatever. As far as there being U.S. serial numbers, whatever, I mean, I understand that their idea is like, oh, well, we give them the weapons, because we did give Saddam Hussein chlorine gas and mustard gas when they were at war with Iran. But the U.S. is not going to have serial numbers on anything they're going to give to another country illegally, right? They're not that stupid. They do that for small arms. You'll find serial numbers. So a lot of the chain coming out of Bulgaria from Purple Shovel and Romania, the small arms fired to ISIS, does have serial numbers on it, and some of the tow missiles and things. But WMDs, he didn't have any. And they knew it. That's why they had to lie about it. If they knew there was some there, they would have had evidence for it. They never had evidence for WMDs. So they had to go on and on about cartoon mobile weapons labs and anthrax that didn't exist and VX gas and so on, and saying he was trying to reconstitute a nuclear program by buying oxidized uranium from Niger and the DRC. It was all sloppy too. This wasn't that professionally done. These are a lot of CNM involved in this. The thing is, they knew the U.S. media wasn't going to argue with it or question it at all, because they never do. Anything that involves Israel, they bend over backwards making excuses for it. This country stole nuclear weapons from the United States and got away with it. So they got the balls to do anything, because there doesn't seem to be a line. I swear Netanyahu could get on stage and eat a baby, and they would blame the baby and call him a human shield or whatever. There's nothing they could do that would get us to move. They were spying on the U.S. as recently as last year with the Stingrays on the White House phone. And Trump's like, oh, well.
To be fair, that baby was a Holocaust denier. So,
all right.
I just wanted to throw in here real quick, and I'll keep this one short because I can be long-winded.
Start talking about that event. Yeah.
No,
God damn it!
If you watch,
no, I'm not talking about that.
Go ahead.
Search the transcripts over his documentaries. Even 911 response systems. Speaking of 9/11, Converse and Reporty and Carbine, things that Epstein and Ehud Barak and other people in Unit 8200 as well.
All the Wexner Foundation gave money to it.
Yeah. So we're talking about the shit sandwich of all shit sandwiches of Israeli spy tech at all levels. Whether you're hurt and they want to interfere with the emergency response, or if one of their useful idiots or one of their actual agents provocateurs is doing something, they'll know about it in real time if the dime is being dropped. And just like with 9/11, they will interfere in the fusion hubs. They'll interfere in emergency response systems. They will interfere. They will make sure that the payload for Israel gets to the target. And if you've been, yeah, you have no idea. Well, Ryan does, but Fash the Nation has also done stuff on Unit 8200 as well. So this is out there. This is known. Your iPhone, your Android is, if they want it to be a recording device, even something that passively, if you're targeted, can be scooping up everything that is said or seen within the range of the lens or the audio device on that thing. We are talking about the most evil people on earth being able to stop 911 calls, stop emergency responses, know when people are onto their useful idiots, track you everywhere you go. I mean, we're talking about some very bad stuff here. And if you wanted to go back to the nuclear weapons program of Israel and what the people they have killed to keep it going, Michael Collins Piper is often referred to by Ryan Dawson. I've read that book 5 times. I took his Key Players in Understanding the John F. Kennedy Assassination from the intro to the book and expanded on it with other information from other sources, including Ryan Dawson, as well as other things. If you go to memoryhole.info, Key Players in Understanding the John F. Kennedy Assassination, it's all there. Israel did it. There
Roger
is
Monson and John Hayden.
Yeah,
that's why they got rid of RFK. He gave them a moratorium to get rid of their nukes, and then Mordecai Vanunu, the whistleblower, was honey trapped and in prison. And the guys that helped catch him were Robert Maxwell, Glenn Maxwell's father, and Ari Ben Menashe, the same people that ran the pedophile ring with Epstein. And their daughters made software for the FBI and blah blah blah. Long story. Trying to stick to 9/11 though, because that's the topic of the day. But I think we covered a lot, Ralph.
I think we did. I was about to say, I think we're pretty much done. Honestly, we covered a lot.
I can tell you, we
had a special guest. I think we kept it. You know, I had a message from somebody that like, "Whoa, this is epic as fuck," but this is kind of fucking spicy here. But I think
we're getting into territory that gets you in trouble.
I think we were still, honestly, I think what we had on this show was still on the okay side, and
it's okay.
But it was.
I was thinking in my head, I can say this.
It was definitely, you know. I love both of you, though, for coming on the show. Although you speak for yourselves, of course, and I'm the host, and I only speak for me. But
Ralph has nothing to do with anything we said. He just likes to copy other people's shirts.
I take no responsibility for anything they say, but I love having them on to say it. Ryan Dawson here on 9/11. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Plug your stuff real quick, and I'll get to Mr. Little as well.
ANCreport.com is the place to get everything, and I really appreciate being able to do a show, back-to-back 9/11 shows, and you know it goes where it goes, and talk a little wrestling, and definitely. I hope we can do that in the future, a little bit lighthearted, but I enjoy that as well. And thanks for listening, everybody, and all the callers. And Patrick, thanks for calling me while we're on the show, so we can get you on. Me and you need to talk about Breivik later.
Yes, thank you.
Right. On our own, on brand new tube.
Thank you, sir. Patrick Little, thank you for coming in, man. We haven't seen you in a while. Go ahead and talk to the audience real quick. Tell them where to find you if you want to, or just, say farewell.
So I'm just saying farewell. Try and keep myself to 30 seconds here. Anyone, when AIPAC at his next meeting can fly a 35-foot long blimp that says AIPAC rapes kids, Epstein rapes kids, the Israeli government rapes kids, to control your government. Anyone can do that. There were 2 years where I was one of like 3 people protesting AIPAC. So, if they have another meeting again, and Israel was behind 9/11 and these pedophile rings and all these murders of the military and elected leadership in this country, we can let them know, hey, we can legitimately say with signs, we want to do more than take your aid away. We want revenge. You got any towers laying around you don't need?
Please come back. Please come back.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you calling in. You have a good one.
Stay away from Ryder trucks.
Stay away.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Dawson, thank you as well, sir. I'm going to talk to you real quick.
I gotta hang up.
Yeah, go ahead and hang up if you'd like.
I don't know if you had callers or what before I go.
Yeah. No, it's cool. I'm not going to bring them on.
Right,
We got to cover this Destiny segment. Thank you, man.
Shaft them.
I appreciate that. Also have to completely disavow the final statement by Patrick Little there, just for the record. Now, Bibble, can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
We still here. We still out here.
Are
I'm
we?
about to go to bed.
Now you
For the
wanna go to
moment.
sleep. Now you want to go to sleep. I want to go to sleep too with about 18 bottles of fucking bourbon down the gullet. Anyway, yeah, it was quite a show. We had some other
Just
topics.
don't wake up and start playing Cuphead.
Just maybe not wake up at all after that one. Anyway, Ryan Ryan Dawson. Ryan Dawson returned this evening. Twitch bans Leafy. That did happen, but we really didn't get to talk about it. So, but yeah, he got banned from Twitch on the day that Pokimane came back. So that might say
It's
something.
so funny. It's so funny that it seems like whenever Pokimane does something, she puts out a letter saying that she's quitting. You know, somebody gets suspended or loses their monetization, and then she comes back, and then all of a sudden it happens again. It's just, it's just weird. It's just these coincidences. I just can't put my finger on.
Yeah, I don't know what could have happened to get Leafy out of there today. Certain.
It's a Gundam was right. It's a Gundam has always been right.
Bibble, say something, sir.
Yes, make sure you tune in to the PGLGBTQ AARP stream on Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern. We're playing D&D at 5 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be great on Sunday, every Sunday. And you know what? Stay tuned to @RealBibble on Twitter because I might be doing something special tomorrow night. I don't know. We'll have to see how tired I am.
All right, thank you, Bibble. I appreciate that. Both you guys have a good one.
Thank you.
Oh wait, before you go, I got to plug. I'm going to be on Dark Butters' stream after the Killstream. It's dlive.tv/the_ghost. So I'll be hanging out with him. You guys want to check that out after the show?
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Both you guys have a good one.
I will ask Pat Little next time. Pat, people
no,
are saying
no more Pat Little. No more Pat Little. No more Pat Little. We've had enough Pat Little. Thank you, Bibble. I appreciate that. I'm done with that joke. It's not funny to me. All right. Now, let me go ahead and see Worski with the super chat. Thank you all for the super chats. I appreciate it. Monday, Richard Spencer. I don't know what else we have on the rest of the week. I'd have to look at the schedule. Let me go ahead and press the outro. Goodbye. Good evening. Whatever. Thank you for the support. I appreciate it. Flatland Chicken Rancher, thank you for the Ninjagini.
The Killstream. They drown a peacefully. Some said the Killstream. The other night, friends, when I went to tune in, I saw the Killstream had been struck down again. Secret flags and reports, but we all know who's to blame. Can't afford the retort. Jihadi Jarbo's his name. Now you won't take them round, or all them channels you strike. So just delete your account. I'm sure there's folders to find. You can't peacefully sunset the Killstream. You never peacefully sunset the Killstream. You won't peacefully sunset the Killstream. You never peacefully sunset the Killstream. You won't peacefully